Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special Comic Art Spotlight this evening. If you were expecting my regular CAF update for a Thursday, that's going to happen tomorrow night. So we're going to be doing a special conversation this evening with Nick Barrucci. He's having some technical problems a little bit because there's a storm in his area and it's messing up his internet at the moment, but we're going to give it a try. We've got two laptops set up at his place, and we're going to try one, and if that one works, we're going to stick with that one. And if that one fails, we're going to switch over to the other one. So as far as, like I mentioned, CAF update will be tomorrow. Don't forget, Dueling Dealers has a special Saturday show at 1 p.m. as well. So let me bring Nick in here. I see he's back in front of the camera here. Good evening, Nick. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
I cannot complain. I tell you, it's I'm loving this live streaming life. I didn't think it was going to be suitable for it, but I'm really enjoying it.
I think you're perfect for it. I mean, you bring the love of the industry with you. You have such great guests every time. You bring new voices to the medium and to just the family. I want to consider it the family of comic art collectors. And you have some of the best dealers on board coming in week and week out.
Well, I do agree with you there. I mean, we've been very fortunate to have the people that have been supporting the chat from being interviewed to participating in the shows. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have gotten the reception that I have from everybody kind of giving it all this a try. So, and especially, and you too as well, because we talked a while back about doing this and you had said, let's push it into 2021. And I waited a little bit later or longer than I wanted to, but I'm glad we were able to set this thing up this evening.
I am too. I only wish the internet was working better. It's crazy.
Well, I know. Well, we can't have everything, but we'll give this one a try. I know that the storm's causing some problems for you, so we'll just roll with it. If we have to switch to the other computer, we'll do that. So
exactly.
Again, and before we kind of get started, I wanted to thank Mark Tomlinson for this $50 donation right before the show even started. So he couldn't be here this evening, but wanted to extend his thanks to really both of us for taking the time out this evening to do this chat, and I really appreciate that. Your support through all the things that we've been doing has been for me, unbelievable. And like anyone in business doing these sorts of things, it takes a lot of money to put these things together and to do them well. And so having your support and the support from everybody else who's contributed their time and money to the show really means a great deal to me.
Well, you know what? Again, it comes down to this being a great community. I'm going to be like a puppet. Like my mouth will sometimes work differently than the video. No, the funny thing about Mark, there's a little bit of a story behind that. He won Dino's 15th round with the Avengers Don Heck art.
Right.
And then 2 hours later, he emailed me and said, hey, I got offered something else that I've wanted for a while. Do you want to buy this instead? And I was like, oh, yes. Thank you, God.
That worked out really well because you were also, you were trying to claim that piece too. So, yes. Yep. Well, then Mark is a very, very great guy for that. I mean, that's the best part of this hobby. The more people the better opportunities you create for yourself as a collector or as a seller. All those things. So having a good reputation and a good circle of friends definitely pays off as far as being able to grow your collection and get the pieces that you really want. And when people know what your tastes are, you tend to get offered those pieces maybe before they might go on, be open to the public. I mean, that's really just, how our hobby, how it churns along and how we can get the pieces that we want and feel happy, within it.
Agreed wholeheartedly, and I've been really lucky. Rich Cirillo just wrote, "This is the best kung fu movie ever."
Yes, my kung fu is stronger than yours.
Exactly. I'm the one frozen, so you're gonna chop me down.
Well, your audio's good. That's the thing. At least it's just that your lips this is like the first episode of Dueling Dealers where Anthony was taught, he'd say something and you'd hear it and then finally his lips would move about 2 or 3 seconds later. So what are we going to do? We got to roll with what we've got.
We do. Let's get right into it. Hey, Arnois. Hey, Ankur. How are you guys?
Oh yeah, there's lots of Larry Wilson, Anker, Tony Bristler, lots of and Jordan, Dino, everybody's here tonight. So I think your origin story, I don't even know where we could really start, because there's several points in your career, both as a collector and as an entrepreneur in the hobby, that we could probably start from. But I'm going to let you kind of pick where you want to begin, how you really got started in the hobby, and most importantly, collecting original comic art.
Well, there's almost 3 origin stories in collecting original comic art. So the first one, I started off as a weekend warrior selling comics at conventions when I was 13 years old. And over the years doing conventions, I was able to pick up some artwork from people like Ron Friend, Jim Aparo, Dick Dillon, a lot of the Northeastern artists. We would do conventions all the way going to Pittsburgh. I was able to pick up bits and pieces here. The funny thing is the artwork might have been between $8 and $15 a page at the time. And at that time, that might have been more than artwork costs today, because when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, being a weekend warrior, doing shows, taking in $100, $150, that's a lot off the top to get one page of art. Especially when you're fortunate enough to get a cover and you're spending $50 for a cover. So my second origin story is around 1992, 91, 92. Joe Jusko, I built a relationship with Joe Jusko, and he had painted the Marvel Masterpiece series. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, he was going through a divorce, and he wanted to sell all of them at once. So I bought his all 120 Marvel Masterpiece paintings. Wow. Now, I borrowed money to do that. I didn't have the cash flow for that. So I borrowed the money to do that. And then I had to sell at least half of the paintings to pay for it. So I ended up selling over time 75% of the paintings, I think. And I've picked up a few back since then. The hard one was selling my Daredevil painting, but that's what one of the customers wanted. And I had to do it because I had to pay my friend back who loaned me the money. Mm-hmm. So then I started buying art at places like Alexander's Gallery. He would run an art show. And I knew Scott Dumbier, but I would see him there. I really got to know Albert there, because I knew some of the art dealers from, again, being at conventions on the weekend. But at Alexander's Gallery, I got to really know everybody. And some of the Byrne pages we're going to show, I picked up from Albert. I got to meet Jim Warden, who's a hell of a nice guy. So back then, I really knew Jim Warden, Albert, Scott. And I remember at one of the Alexander's Galleries, the funny thing is I was with Garib Shamus, who was collecting a lot of art, but he didn't know about the convention. So I took him there, and we're looking at art, and there was a Lone Wolf and Cub cover, I think penciled by Frank Miller, inked by Bill Sienkiewicz. And it was $800. And Garib was doubtful about getting him. I said, look, Garib, here's the deal. If you don't buy it, I will. And someone walked over, was looking through all the art. I think it might have been Albert's table. And the guy said, are you guys buying it? And I said, well, if he doesn't, I am. And so he said, okay, if you buy it, oh boy, here we go. He said, if you buy it, I will give you an extra $200 on top. And when that happened,
25% extra. So
exactly, just for sitting there and paying Albert or whoever, and then handing off the art, a quick $200 profit. Garib jumped on that so quickly. He said, "Nope, it's mine."
That's funny.
So that was, and then the other origin story really happens with Albert again. So I think it was like San Diego 2014. And, I knew Albert, I knew some of the guys, and I stopped by his booth. And, I always liked Albert. And he represents John Cassaday, one of my closest friends. He's friends with Scott Dunbier. When Scott went to go work for Wildstorm and Wildstorm was bought by DC, Paul said, you can't sell original art and be an editor. So all of the people that Scott repped went to Albert because that's who Scott recommended. And Albert said to me, Nick, you look like a complete issue type of guy. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I think you want to buy original art and you want to buy a complete issue. And I said, Albert, it would have to be one hell of a complete issue. And Albert did, before I tell you, he did the one thing that makes you say yes. He said, I'll give you 6 months to pay for it.
Yes, the ultimate tease to get you to buy the art. No, Albert's a good salesman.
He's a great salesman. And he said, how would you like the single oldest complete major superhero character from the Silver Age, the oldest complete issue without the cover?
Mm-hmm.
I said, all right, dude, if you have something by Neil Adams, I can't afford it. You don't have George Perez because he wasn't drawing in the Silver Age. And I have a feeling if it's Carmine Infantino or Gil Kane, it's going to be really pricey. If it's Frank Miller, fortunately for me, it wasn't Silver Age because I never would have been able to afford that.
Right.
So he said, I have the complete Adam #1. My face dropped. You have the complete Adam #1 by Gil Kane. He said, yeah, and we'll talk about the inscription at the bottom in a minute. But he said, I have and I'm just amazed. It's Gil Kane. It's the Adam #1. Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, favorite Gil Kane character. But the Adam #1, 1962, maybe? I can't remember right now. Maybe even earlier. And it was... It's literally like Eddie Murphy in his video Raw. Okay.
Right, I get you. I can only imagine the look on your face when he was showing it to you.
Yep, he told me that it was the oldest one, and Albert's a salesman, but he's a straight shooter. And so Albert literally pulled me back into the hobby. And that was one thing led to another. So then John Cassaday found out that I bought the complete Adam #1. So John said, I have the complete John Byrne Alpha Flight #1. And I know you're paying for the Adam now, but I'll give you time payments beyond that. Okay.
Well, that's a very deep origin story then. If you went after and picked up 2 complete books at the same the same show at the same moment, that's crazy, Nick.
It was insane. And John, Albert gave me time, and then John gave me more time, and it was just this unbelievable opportunity that you're sitting there going, okay, I'm tapping into some of my retirement fund for these because these are that special. I always say the one thing when it comes to comics or original art, you will never go wrong if you buy what you love. Don't buy for speculation. Don't buy because it's something that you think is a great deal that you'll be able to flip in a year, because you never know. There's been plenty of stuff that people have bought, put in auctions, and then been unhappy about it,
Sure.
And so there were 2 books that I loved. I mean, the Alpha Flight #1, I remember working at a floral place, getting paid $20 a week And as soon as I got my check, I went and spent $1 to buy the Alpha Flight #1. Like, that was top of my list, because I just loved it. I mean, Byrne, Alpha Flight, complete, pencils, inks, writing, lettering, even.
Right. I mean, I was waiting for that issue. I mean, I think that was such a, it was a great moment in comics, I think, when Byrne launched that series. And I mean, I think I bought 2 or 3 copies because I was like, I'm going to have a couple that I'm not going to read. I'm going to put them in bags. And no, I'm totally with you there. But here, a question for you, though. Before Albert pitched you on that, had you ever contemplated buying a complete issue before that? Or you were wanting to own a complete issue, really?
I've had complete issues. I had some complete Jim Aparo issues from back in the day. I did have some, but I would say to a degree, back when I was collecting the first time and I was able to pick up a few complete issues here and there, I bought some Aparo from Spencer Beck because Spencer repped Jim Aparo in the family. I complete issues, you were paying a little bit of a premium for the coolness, but it wasn't so expensive where you sat there and thought about it. And I hate to say it like this, but it was easier to buy complete issues in the early 90s. It was far easier. Now it's just, all the stuff that either we grew up on or we love today. I do understand that for the most part, art reps don't sell complete issues for the most part because, and I can understand that philosophy. It's a little bit fair to all the collectors as opposed to just one collector. Even though on a personal level, I disagree, on a creator level, I get it. So it's been far more difficult. So getting the Atom #1 and the Alpha Flight #1 really gave me a deep appreciation for collecting complete issues and what it means. So, I've been, especially in this heated market right now, I've gotten some Daniel 11, you're right. A lot of the rising prices really caused a lot of the books to be split. I mean, I've been offered generous amounts of money to split up the Alpha Flight #1.
I'm sure.
And I just don't have it in my heart.
I don't blame you. I mean, that's one that I would cherish for a very long time, without question. And breaking it up just wouldn't seem right after all these years of having it. And and the fact that I'm just surprised that John had it, though. So I mean, how lucky could you be, though? That's just I'm amazed that you were able to get both of those at the same time. So that's I mean, I have not heard a story like that, but like to your point about dealers and selling complete issues. I mean, I think today with the market being what it is, in many cases, collectors are approaching dealers when they know that that the art is going to be going on the market, and they're just offering them the complete issues. They're offering the dealer money for the complete issue before they'll break it up and put it on their sites. And when they're getting a good amount, probably more than if they did sell all the pages individually, I definitely understand why the dealers are taking that approach today to sell the books complete, because it is a very unique item for a collector to have. And if it nets the artist a little bit more revenue, I think that's a fair thing. But I'm with you too as a collector. As a collector, I'd be a little disappointed if it's something I really wanted and I got cut out of it. But it's a seller's market today in comic.
It is big time. It is big time a seller's market. And the one thing I'll say is again, going back to this, even being a seller's market, you never know when you might get lucky and some things fall between the cracks. Like this past Heritage auction, things were nosebleed astronomical in prices, but I was able to get one thing that I really wanted at a fair price, and then I ended up getting 3 things that I felt fell between the cracks that were really cool to own. And I I don't want to say what it was because it feels like it might take away from the art, but I'll say there was a Marie Severin piece that I felt went for below what it should be, which I just jumped on because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. But at the end of the day, the prices are astronomical. People are breaking everything up. I mean, I've got one of the things that I have a lot of is John Romita Jr. complete Spider-Man issues, which in the early 2000s, again, were much more affordable. I was able to pick those up from Spencer Beck as well because it was either he was representing both the John Romita Jr. and the inker, right, or they would split it up, 2 issues for John, 1 issue for the inker.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's probably happened a lot in those cases. But so yeah, so you have a lot of complete issues then.
I do. I realize how blessed I am every day because it's breathing rarefied air. And I do believe in paying it forward. I don't sell much of my art, but sometimes when there's someone who loves something and I have either a great representation of it or other representation of the artist that I love more, that'll be when I let go of something. When we get to the JLAs, we'll talk a little bit about Michael Lovitz and some of the deals we did, because there was a JLA page that I had by Perez, and I've only ever let go of 2 Perez pieces in my entire life. 3. I'm sorry, I've let go of 3 Perez pieces in my entire life. 2 of them were to 2 people that really loved them, and I figured they loved it more than I did. And 1 went to a creator as part of a trade to get a Green Lantern cover by Gil Kane. So, you make your sacrifices.
Right. No, well, you can't own everything.
You can't.
That's the thing. And at the end of the day, like somebody mentioned earlier, somebody wishes that you would keep the Alpha Flight 1 together and then selfishly wishes that you would break it up, because there really is not a lot of early Alpha Flight art on the market. I mean, I've seen really very little, in the 20 years that I've been collecting. So I think that's, it's how things are. As collectors, we wish we could have that one good example from a run that we really appreciate. And early Alpha Flight would be one where, that I'd love to have a page from, but it's just not out there. It doesn't come up very often for sale.
And the pages have shot up incredibly. I mean, you were able to get some less action-oriented pages. I don't want to say lesser pages, but like less action-oriented pages for under $1,000 for a while. And now you're lucky to touch a page under $1,500, $2,000 for a decent page. Exactly.
Nope. I'm struggling with that every day. It's like I see something that I know not 6 months ago was, 30% less or 50% less. And now it's where it's at. And we can justify the prices that those things are at now because of the last couple of Heritage auctions, the Comic Link auctions. Everything is just clearly on the rise. And but I think in and up to an appropriate level too. I've always felt art in general, comic art in general, was undervalued. When you look at the value of comic books that that are mass produced, the idea that the art isn't, it's one of a kind and it should be more valuable. I mean, maybe not more valuable than the comics, but certainly undervalued as opposed to a nice slabbed 9.8 of something, going for 10 times what it's worth, and the art from that book just not even seeming to reach that same kind of equivalent. So I think what we're seeing is just an adjustment to where things are somewhat being valued more properly, and I think we definitely are seeing some new blood in the hobby as well that's helping drive these prices a bit.
Well, Encore said it, and I think I added to it. Encore said the old ceiling is the new floor now. Yeah. And to be honest, the only thing I'll add to that is there is no ceiling anymore, it feels like. I mean, look, I think there's 4 things that really bring a lot of attention to original art and that level the playing field for everybody: art dealers, collectors, creators. And it's a combination of eBay, comic art fans, the internet overall, and the auction houses. Those four things have really brought, comic art fans is the ultimate community. It's the ultimate fan community. It's the ultimate way we all can reach out to each other. We can get to know each other. We can appreciate what the other has. And, for the most part, I think most collectors in our hobby are great people. There are some that can be a little bit of jerks, but, it is what it is. But, yeah, when you finally, thank God, as an appreciator of art, you say, thank God. As a collector who would like to get a piece, I'm like, pressing. But, a giant size X-Men page can finally go for what a 9.8 giant size X-Men goes for, as it should.
Yes. I know. Trust me. As a person who would love a wonderful Cockrum example from this first run, I pretty much know at this point I will never own one because it's unobtainable now. Whereas 12 years ago, I think I could have had a couple, but I look at it now and there's just no way that I'll ever own. I'll be lucky if I own something from the second run at this point. At the rate the prices are increasing.
Well, I would say never say never.
Right.
Never say never. I mean, I got lucky just today on something that I never expected.
I know. I saw that. I was going to congratulate you on that purchase. That's a fantastic Jim Lee Uncanny page. Congratulations. I saw that on. I was refreshing Albert's site as well when everything went live, and I saw that, and I knew it was going to be swept up very quickly. So congratulations.
Yeah, Albert said I literally beat the next person by seconds. I literally beat them by seconds. And I will say one thing about this hobby is always be happy with what you have. Don't be jealous of what you don't have. And when we get to my Neil Adams Brave and the Bold, we can touch all that a little bit more. But I think if we show, do you want to go to my Crisis on Infinite Earths or something else next?
Well, I mean, I kind of ordered everything in the list that you gave it to me. So
whatever order you go in.
Okay, yeah, let's look at some art and talk about the stories behind them. I like that.
Okay. So Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is the ultimate. This is my holiest of holy grails. This is the one piece. I have the complete issue. And this is the one piece of art. I say piece of art, but the one thing that when I die will go to my nephews and my goddaughter. And it's funny, I was with Joe Melchior in San Diego Comic-Con and we were talking, and he was with a collector who was asking me about this and said, so will you ever sell any pages? And I said, no, they're going to go to my nephews and my goddaughter when I die. And because I'm not crazy in saying it's being buried with me. I think that's the most insane thing to ever say about anything. Either give it to family, donate it to a museum, or have it sold where your family gets money. But being buried with you, to me, sounds like the most ludicrous thing to ever say. And so the collector with Joseph Melchior, I don't remember his name, he said, Uncle Nicky, let me give you my address.
Yeah. Everybody wants to become part of the family when they see art like this, though.
Well, the funny thing about this is it took me 16 years to get this. And what happened was when the first Crisis on Infinite Earths Absolute came out, George Perez, Marv Wolfman, and Alex Ross, who painted the cover over George Perez, flew in to sign copies. And then 2 days later, Dick Giordano, Mike DiCarlo, and Jerry Ordway took the train down from Connecticut to sign copies. We couldn't get them all on the same day. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it was Marv's schedule flying. And it was a coincidence. It was the three guys who had to fly in, had to come in one day. And then the three guys in Connecticut just happened to come in a different day. So we're talking, and I was telling them, look, I will tell you one thing, Marv, George, you wrote the most important comic that I've ever read. Crisis on Infinite Earth is the best comic ever. It is the comic that I fell in love with. You guys put more action in one page at times than people put in a half of issue, which back then was less so than now. Now there's too much decompressed stories going on. But I was just talking about it, and George started giggling. And I was telling them about the Flash. I said, look, Crisis number 7, that the way Supergirl died was the classic death of a hero. She was in battle with all the heroes. She flew in front of Superman and sacrificed herself, and everybody saw it and remembered it. But Crisis number 8, Flash was beaten. He was in pain. He should have just wanted to give up and die. And he was alone, and he fought against all odds to try and stop the Anti-Monitor, to try and take him down, take out the Psycho Pirate. He took his last ounce of inner strength and sacrificed himself alone without anyone to see him, cheer him on. No one even knew what he did. And he died the ultimate hero's death. And the more I talked about it, the more George started giggling. And George was about to say something, and Marv pulled at George's arm and whispered in his ear. And then Marv said, look, you have to tell Jerry this story. I said, okay, why? Am I geeking out so much? You want me to geek out with someone else? And Marv just said, look, you should share it with all of us. And I said, okay. So a few days later, when Jerry and Dick and DiCarlo come down, I tell them the same story about how great it was. I'm a little bit more embarrassed at that point to say something because, you know, you've got Mike there, you've got Dick there. They both think some pages. So I wanted to be careful not to feel like I wasn't giving them any kudos for their contribution to the series. So I really focused my conversation on issue 7 and 8 again without talking about the whole series and how much the whole series meant to me. So Jerry's got a stoic face. He's just like listening, like shaking his head. Oh, really? That's interesting. DiCarlo is cracking up at this point. And Dick just kicks Jerry in the, you know, like a light tap on the leg, you know, like that little tap you give someone on the leg. And he goes, go ahead, tell the kid. And Jerry goes, you know how when it comes to the comics, the penciler gets 2/3, the inker gets 1/3? Well, since Crisis number 7 was double-sized, George kept number 7, I kept number 8. My jaw fell so quickly, it cracked the concrete. Like, I was speechless at that point. And Jerry said, safe to assume you're the biggest Flash fan in the world? I said, well, safe to assume that I'm the biggest Barry Allen Flash fan in the world. Oh, God, the computer doesn't want to see my face. I said, I am definitely the biggest Barry Allen Flash fan in the world. So Jerry said, look, Nick, here's the thing. I've had this all these years, and I'm sure one day I'm going to start selling it. When I do, I'm going to give you a page. And I'm just, oh my God, like this is 1997, 1998, and Jerry Ordway is going to give me a page from my all-time favorite book. I had some pages from Crisis, but they were from issue 11 and 12, I think. And I still have those. And basically it was the confluence of everything. So literally after San Diego Comic-Con, after I talk to Albert, after I talk to Cassidy, after I commit to the Atom, after I commit to Alpha Flight, I'm emailing with Jerry, just touching base because I got the bug in me again, and just saying, hey, I said, I hope I'm not being a nudge since you said you would give me a page, but, just want to remind you how much this is my favorite. And, you don't have to give it to me if you ever break it up. I'm happy to buy a page. And he said, well, actually, by coincidence, I'm thinking about selling this. Why don't you pick the page that you want? I'm still going to give you a page for free. And, if you want to buy another page or two, I'm happy to sell it to you. I responded with, would you ever sell the entire book to one person? And he's, we're emailing back and forth. And he said, you would buy the whole book? I said, if you would sell it to me, I would. And so he said, okay, let me think about it. I don't want to do anything this year. I want to wait till next year. My daughter's going to college and there's no point in rushing this. So when I need to take care of that, it'll be good to just take care of everything then. He had other reasons, and those are his reasons. And, I'm trying not to be a pain, but I'm like this at this point. Oh my God. I was like, I cannot die before I buy this book. That's the one thing. I cannot die. That's the one thing. I have to live to get this book. So politely emailing and keeping in touch. And he said, I don't know what to ask for it. I said, well, look, I'll go get some advice and come back to you. So I talked to Will Gabriel. Mm-hmm. And Will said, this is a fair range of what I think you should pay. So it was, I'll never forget, it was Halloween Eve. I'm talking to Jerry on the phone and finally got him on the phone. And he said, okay, Nick, this is what I was offered a few years ago. So if you can pay me at least this, I'll sell you the entire issue. And I said, Jerry, I tell you what, my worst offer, my lowest offer is higher than what you were offered years ago. So here's offer A. Offer A is a fair price and maybe a little bit fairer to me than to you. Here's offer B. Offer B is equally fair. Here's offer C. Offer C is fair, but it's fairer to you than to me. And here's offer D, which is, I don't care. This is the thing that I'm going to love for as long as I live, that I don't want you to doubt it in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And Jerry is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And Jerry said, well, if you don't mind, I'll take offer C. I don't want to take offer D because I don't want to take advantage, but I wouldn't mind taking offer C. I said, Jerry, don't mind. That's why I made the offer. So, okay, so now I need to be patient, which is, I can be patient, which we will talk about on some of the other pieces. And obviously I was patient waiting 16 years for this. But in being patient, touched base right after Thanksgiving weekend and said, hey, I could always come up right after Christmas, post-date a check. And he said, well, I've got my daughter coming back from college. I got my son coming back. We're going to have some family. And I really, it's going to be family time. And then I got to clean everything up. And I just want to relax that week. Mm-hmm. Oh. So a couple of days before Christmas, I email him again, like, hey, just in case anything changes, love to be up there, yada, yada, yada. All right, so he's like, no, let's touch base next week. We'll get together in January. But what are you going to do? Like, that's in my head. All right. So I said, look, I'll drop you a line New Year's Eve. Let's figure out the date. So it's the Saturday after New Year's. I'm going up there. And I can't wait. The night before, it is Christmas Eve for me. I'm about to get something that means so much to me that I don't care if I don't buy anything else for the rest of my life. This is the ultimate item. And night before, snowstorm. Up to 12 inches of snow in Connecticut. Jerry emails me and says, look, with the snowstorm and everything else, why don't we postpone it? And I said, Jerry, the weekend after, I have to go to the UK. I responded so quickly, I will be there tomorrow. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I will be there tomorrow. I don't care about the snow. So it's supposed to be a little bit over a 3-hour drive. I was supposed to be there by 1. Because of the snow, I didn't get there till 5. And I was going to be damned if I was not getting that book. Now, I called him a few times on my way to try and tell him I was going to be late, and he's not picking up the phone. I'm like, oh my God, he must be pissed at me. I am going to be so late. I'm going to, every time I thought I was only going to be, when I thought I was only going to be an hour and a half late, then all of a sudden, I'm going to be 2 hours late. I'm going to be 3 hours late. Finally got there. Yeah, that's right. I showed up on the dog sled. I walked through 5 miles of snow without shoes on. I finally get there. He opens the door. He's like, and I told him, I was like, oh my God, Jerry, are you pissed? I'm sorry. He's like, no, you know what? I forgot I turned the phone off because I slept in today and I was doing work in the studio and I was doing wash. I'm like, okay. Oh, thank God he's not pissed. Again, he's such a nice guy. You do not want Jerry Ordway upset at you. He's such a nice guy. So I was like, look, if you want, we could just take care of the artwork and I'll just get out of your hair. And he's like, nah, Nick, you came all the way. Come on, let's hang out a little bit. He was so nice about it. He keeps a lot of his artwork. And he showed me his art. He showed me some of his collection. And just like, it was just grand. Because I'm a huge Jerry Ordway fan. Loved All-Star Squadron, loved Infinity Inc., loved his artwork for decades. So as I'm getting ready to leave, I said, and like, you ever say something and you see the words coming out of your mouth and you're trying to stop it and put them back in? And I said, what made you to decide to sell this instead of anything else? And I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? You didn't give him the check yet. You don't have the art in your hands. Shut up.
Right.
So he said, look, the fact that you emailed me and I was thinking of finally selling some art and it just seemed like the right time to sell Crisis. I've had it since 1986. So, and I feel like it's going to a good home. He said, you can do what you want with it. It's yours. But at least I feel like it's going to a good home. And that makes me feel special about it. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. And he signed the artwork. And then I had another 10-hour trek home. I ended up getting home at like 5 in the morning or something ridiculous like that. So, and when I got home, I had such goosebumps. Pam was awake waiting for me. I actually pulled out one of my Crisis on Infinite Earths trade paperback and showed her the art and the comic page by page. Now, Pam, honestly, she loves me. I love her. She couldn't care less. She's happy that I'm happy, and she's looking at this, and she's looking at my arm saying, your hairs are standing up talking about this. I said, Pam, in my entire life, I never thought I would have something like this. I am so blessed right now that I just, I said, I made a bad joke. I said before, I just can't die between then and getting it. I was like, yeah, even if I die in a plane crash going to the UK, I don't care anymore. I've got this in my hands. And I said, here's the letter with how much I think what you should do with it. If I do die while I'm gone, you got to give 25% to AJ, 25% to Joseph. You keep 25% and 25% to Carly. But since it's 25 pages, you get the extra page.
Very fair. Very, very fair. Well, Well, I think just the fact that you gave Ordway 4 different offers, says a lot about you. Where you're giving him. You didn't start low ball like most people would. You went in and said, here's the range and what I'm happy with. And I can tell you that I do the same thing in business. I'm actually trying to sell the mini golf right now, and I went into negotiation with somebody and literally gave them 3 options based on a time frame. But I just said, here's what I want now, here's what I want in the middle of summer, and here's what I want at the end, and I'm happy whichever one you take, because I'm perfectly content with that. And because I'm not, I want to be fair. I want to be fair to them, and I want that, so I really appreciate the fact that you went into that negotiation in that way, because you never hear anything like that.
Well, he was so generous with me in still saying, I'll give you a free page and then you can buy whatever other pages. He kept his word on something that he said 16 years before. So how do you not reciprocate? I mean, sure, like anybody else, you want to get the best deal you can, but this was something, I mean, I've said it a few times, so I apologize for beating a dead horse, but never in a million years would I have thought that I would have something that would be the ultimate collectible in the thing that I could stop collecting and I'm ecstatic for the rest of my life.
No, I totally understand. It's got to be the best feeling in the world to get that one. The book that meant the most to you is now in your hands. I mean, that just doesn't happen. That won't happen in many collectors' entire career of collecting original art. Yeah,
I will tell you this. I don't think a month goes by where I don't look at that book at least once. It is still a pinch yourself moment. I look at that book at least once a month. I will look at the Atom and the Alpha Flight every few months. I try and look. I do have a considerable amount of art, so it would be disingenuous to say I look at all of it all the time. But I do try and look at my art. I don't want to take it for granted. The day I start taking it for granted is the day I need to move on from collecting art. And comics, I mean, yes, I've got runs of comics that I'll never reread. And yes, it's knowing that I have a great collection. And for the longest time, there were comics that I would buy another copy of if I felt there was a better copy out there or just such a perfect copy. I think I have 13 copies of Fantastic Four #4. I must have more than that, a Flash 123. And when we talk about Submariner 67, we'll talk about that because I've got a little bit of an extra funny story there.
All right, sounds good. So would you like to look at some more art?
Yeah. I'm sure the fans would rather look at art than me.
Well, one question, though. Ronald Shepard wanted to know about the cover. I assume you don't have that, but you probably know where it is, so I imagine.
I know exactly where it is, and I had what I felt. I do not hold any ill will. I felt that that's not me. I'm not the one who has the Steve Epting Captain America covers. That's my friend Nick Catratis. Nick Catratis has the Steve Epting covers. Sorry, I saw that and I didn't want to take away from that. I know who has it. And, I respect his decision. It just felt weird, his response. I asked him how much for the cover, and he said he didn't want to compete against himself, which I can understand. And he said, make an offer, but start at 6 figures and don't start at 100,000. And I just said, you know what? I fully respect where you're coming from, but that's above my comfort level. Right. And I could have looked at selling a few things or tapped into the retirement fund for something like this. But I just, you don't have to have everything. You really don't, and that's why I don't know if I said this earlier, one of my feelings about any kind of collectability is be happy with what you have. Don't be jealous of what you don't have. because good things sometimes do come to those who wait. I mean, The Crisis is a perfect example. I mean,
Right.
and if it never came together, I had other Crisis pages. So I still had some beautiful examples. I'll always have the collections, the original series. I think I have not every version of Crisis that ever came out, but I have the oversized Absolute Edition. I think they called it, with the poster. I have a bunch of trade paperbacks, just different versions of it. I mean, multiple copies of Crisis #8. It's just my ultimate series. And, I was always happy that I had what I had.
Right. Well, it's, and I'm sure I don't know when the offer at the 6-figure level over 100 was out there, but I mean, when somebody knows that you already have the complete issue and you're looking for that last thing, it's always going to be higher for you. And that cover might become available one day, and it might not be over the 6 figures, price. You just never know. Well, in this market, who knows? But that's something that you hear about a lot, is when people are putting issues together where they're not able to buy the whole issue, and if they need 3 or 4 pages. If the person who's got the art, they know that they can ask double or triple what that artwork should be, because they know you're really trying to complete an issue or get the book together. So, I mean, that happens all the time. So a lot of people build those books in secret. They won't let anybody know. They'll sometimes have an intermediary approach the potential seller so that they don't, you don't think it's, they're not going to try to raise the price on them. So, yeah, I mean, you just never know. But I agree with you. You got to be happy with what you have at the end of the day. You can't put yourself in the poorhouse.
Exactly. And that's why also I believe in paying it forward. Like, I had a beautiful Adventure Comics cover by Jim Aparo, one of the 9 highly sought after Spectre covers. And Rob Hughes, it was on his bucket list. It was one of his grails. So, as much as I loved it, and I have a lot of Jim Aparo art, I just felt it really meant a lot to him. And I just said, you know what? This is going to go to a home where it means so much to Rob. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to sell it to him. Sure. It was as simple as that. I mean, it wasn't one of those someone reaches, it wasn't somebody who reached out to me who just said, oh my God, this is my grail. I mean, you could look at Rob's CAF, you could look at his posts on Facebook, so much about Aparo, so much about the Spectre. There's only 9 of these covers. It's like, I am so blessed. There's no point in holding on to everything. Like I said, I don't sell much of my art, but I also do know that there are things I have that mean more to other people.
Right. No, that's a great way to approach this hobby, without question. And you're in a position to do that. So very admirable, Nick. Why don't we want to look at a piece from JLA?
Sure.
All right.
So this is probably my all-time favorite JLA JSA story, 195 to 197, mostly drawn by Perez. I think some was inked by Beatty and some was inked by Breeding, but I could be misremembering. And the second half of 197 was actually penciled by Pollard. But this page is a page that because the Ultra Humanite ended up being an All-Star Squadron and Infinity Inc. Just again, 2 of my favorite series as a kid. When this came out and the Ragdoll is saying to the Signal, the Signal's like, are we going to follow an ape? And Ragdoll said, silence, fool, or something like that. This is the Ultra Humanite. They say his genius matches that of Alexi Luthor. And I never saw Lex Luthor called Alexi Luthor. I thought that was so cool. And this is something that Mike Lovitz had. And Mike is a huge George Perez collector as well. And I'd say some of the majority of my George Perez art I bought from Michael. So Michael had put some stuff in auction, and ironically, I was the person winning it all. And this was when you could win a George Perez JLA page for like $400 to $600.
Right.
It's amazing how 2015, 2016 is like a lifetime ago at this point. So Michael was looking to pick up some other art. I think there is a point for a lot of people where you go from collecting the art you can afford to collecting higher end art, and you start trading up. So Michael just said, look, I'll save myself the hassle of putting these in auction. Do you want to buy my JLA George Perez art? And I also have History of the DC Universe 2 pages, and I have a few Crisis pages. And I just said, yeah, if we can make it work, I would love to buy it. So I think I must have bought 30 pages of art from Michael in one shot. I bought Crisis number 9, pages 1 and 2 from him. I bought JLA 195 to 197 pages. I bought pages from 186 with the Dark Side JLA JSA crossover. And I got the cover to JLA 202, where Batman is coming out as a zombie with his gloves tattered, and the JLA are looking for him. And then I can't remember if it's Hawkman or the Atom turns and sees him, basically saying, we found Batman, and, kind of like, this is not good.
Right. Well, you were definitely there at an opportune time with Michael to be able to pick all those up at one time. That's a stroke of luck.
It was right place, right time. It was the fact that I was winning his pages anyway, and it was the fact that it made it seamless for him. And just real quick, looking at this page, with the Ultra Humanite, not only is Ragdoll and Signal looking great, but you see from Action 14, you see him there with Superman busting in. You also see a lot of the people that the Ultra Humanite put his mind in that took over all those years. And eventually he became the main villain in the Golden Age with James Robinson and Paul Smith. So, just really, really great pages that I love. And, I feel like, I breathe rarefied air, and just really fortunate. These are also pages I look at every once in a while because they mean so much to me.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, one of those pages Mike regretted selling to me. So, and it was with the Golden Age Flash, which made it so much more difficult. But, he was kind enough to sell me everything. I mean, again, he was going to sell it regardless. Right. And it worked out for both of us. And it just became more seamless that I felt, you know what? He really wants this page. He was so good to me. Got to pay it back.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I mean, but like you said, it was sometimes we have those regrets. And if Michael had that regret on that one particular page out of the 30, I mean, that's wonderful that you were willing to give it back, sell it back.
Yeah. No, it felt like the right thing to do. Again, it's just being selfish doesn't help in life.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, here we have I really like this page a lot, this DPS here. So let me pull that one up.
Oh my God, that's one of my birthday presents to myself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's my birthday, I think last year, my 51st birthday. And I wake up to either a text or an email from Mike Barrucci. And out of the blue, he sends me this email or text and says, hey, somebody was supposed to buy this Flash 300 cover. but they backed out. Do you have any interest? And literally the morning of my birthday, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, am I still asleep? Am I dreaming? This is on my CAF. This is on my want list on CAF. And I emailed him back and said, yes, I'll buy it. By the way, how much is it? And Mike said, oh, okay. I didn't know you were a Flash fan. I'm like, Mike, I think he's like, oh, he's like, oh, he did not remember or did not know I was a Flash fan. This was totally out of the blue from him, where he just reached out to me. It was good fortune. It was good fortune twice over. It was good fortune that the person who was supposed to buy it turned it down, and it was good fortune that he thought of me. That I just couldn't believe it, and on my birthday of all days,
Yeah, no, that's absolute. Well, like somebody like Alfredo just said, it was divine intervention that brought that call to you. Yeah, that's funny. Because Mike is usually pretty savvy and knows what everybody's wants are. So it's funny that he wouldn't have caught on earlier that you are such a Flash fan.
You know what I think part of it is? A lot of Mike's inventory and focus is Marvel over DC.
Yes.
And I think that he will remember collectors Marvel's needs, because not that he doesn't like DC or anything, but he doesn't necessarily associate it as much. But like I said, this was on my want list, and you've literally got the Flash hitting their entire rogues gallery. I mean, you've got everybody but the Top, because the Top had died in issue 242, I think. But I mean, you've got the Mirror Master, Captain Cold, Trickster, Captain Boomerang. God, I can't believe I'm blanking on some of the names. Rich, help me here. I need your help, Rich.
Throwing out a lifeline here.
Exactly. Hey, Jimmy Palmiotti.
Hey, Jimmy. I was actually emailing with Jimmy earlier. We're gonna try to get Jimmy on the show sometime in the near future. Nice to have you on the show.
He is one of the nicest, most talented people in the industry. And he's another great guy. He's just he's a writer. He's an artist. We're blessed to be working with him on a Red Sonja story that he's co-writing with Amanda Conner. Just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I hope you do get him on the air. Jimmy has, thank you, Ray. Jimmy has so many stories. I think the one character that's missing that I would love to see is Mr. Element. Mr. Element would have been really cool on this. And Alfredo, you're right. I truly believe that paying it forward means it comes back to me. I do think doing things like being kind to people because something means more to them. Actually, I didn't put it here, but the deal that I did with Rob Hughes, Albert went to Profiles in History at the auction last January. So I sold it to Rob 2 Decembers ago. And then in January, Albert was at Profiles in History. And they were selling Amazing Spider-Man number 10 comics. Now, Amazing Spider-Man number 10 from the little pocketbooks, my best friend from grade school died at 45 from a heart murmur. And the first comic I remember reading as a 5 or 6-year-old was one of those big little books. And I remember the Big Man. I remember Dancing Dan, Montana, the Ox, and I bought like Marvel team up pages by Ron Frenz or Pat Olive. I bought a Ryan Rossley page from Felix from his Spider-Man run, a splash of the Big Man. But obviously, Spider-Man number 10 is the ultimate to have by Ditko. So So Albert was at Profiles in History, and he did me a solid. He said, "How much do you want me to bid for this for you?" And I said, "Look, $25,000 is my limit, because then you got to pay the buyer's premium, which would have brought it to 30." And I'm on the phone with Albert, and Albert's like, "Oh, so you really don't want this, do you?" I said, "No, it's not that I don't want it. It's that I have money coming in and I have to be responsible." So he's like, "Nick, it's a $45,000, $50,000 page." I said, "I get it, Albert." So the starting bid was 20, and they had a lot of Ditko Spider-Man in that. I mean, a lot being like 5 or 6 pages. And this one was a little bit of a slower page. It was you see Big Man, but it was Peter giving Aunt May a blood transfusion as she was sickly, and the spider blood really, the radioactive blood really helped her. And basically, it started at 20. Albert bid 20. Someone else bid the 22.50. Albert bid 25, and then he won it.
Unbelievable. Albert was wrong. I can't say I've seen that happen to him, or that he would have did.
He offered me a profit on it. He actually said, "You know what, Nick? Actually, this is probably a $50,000 page." He's like, "I'll give you a little bit of a profit if you let me keep it." I said, "Albert, no." I said, "I gave you my limit, and I said that's just where that goes." And again, would the stars have aligned, and would karma have given me that opportunity had I not been nice to someone else? I don't know. Maybe, but I may not have even paid as much attention. So, you know.
I remember that Profiles auction as well. And I thought that felt a little weird having that many Ditkos in it, that it could in some way maybe hurt one or two of the pieces, but you were the beneficiary of that. So that's again, you paid it forward, and you got something that you certainly deserved. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. And it's funny, David Barr just chimed in, and David went after a page that I wanted to buy, and he bought a Daredevil from Marvel 1000 by Joe Quesada, inked by Kevin Nolan. And that when that was available, it was at a time where I just needed to be careful with my budget, and I was literally thinking about it, and I was getting ready to approach Quan about it and just say, "Look, if I can get a few months to pay for it, I'd like to buy it." And out of the blue, David Barr knows I have a lot of Daredevil art by Quesada and Palmiotti, and David asked me my advice. He's like, "This is $8,000. Do you think it's a good deal?" And I'm sitting there going, "Devil, angel, devil, angel, angel. Yes, David, it's a great deal. This is something you will always love."
Right.
Oh, Daredevil 1000. Marvel 1000, Daredevil by Joe Quesada and Kevin Nolan. And it's like, can you stop being honest? Shut up. I thought, it's like, what was that Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar, where like he puts himself up in the bathroom, and then the judge goes, "Can you continue?" And he goes, "Oh, yes, I can, Your Honor." It's like, but I mean, to David, that I think it was his first Quesada piece. And it is the most important modern Quesada piece in the last 10 years. It just is. And I could not lead him astray and lie to him just because I wanted it. It just would have been cheesy. It would have been cheap.
Right.
So,
well, reputation is everything in this hobby, Nick. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because you have probably one of the best reputations of anyone that I know of. No one's ever said a bad word about you, and clearly it's because like you said, you're giving back at so many different angles. Whether you're helping creators get their work out there, helping collectors find artwork, you've just got the right approach to your collecting and in business. So kudos to you. I mean, there's not enough Nicks out there in the world. I can tell you that.
Well, I think you haven't heard anything bad because you have a small circle of friends, obviously. You need to talk to a few more people. I'm sure you'll get there.
I can tell you, if someone has a bad reputation, I get emailed about it all the time. Do something about this person. Do something. Yeah. So no, never heard a bad word about you, Nick. Not at all.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you. That does mean a lot.
And yeah, Michael mentions too that he thanks for the shout out, and he'd be ready for retirement almost if he had held on to those pages.
Not true. If you put that money into Apple stock or into Amazon, you'd be further ahead. Stock market still is a better investment. This is more fun.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to put some money in Apple stock a long time ago, and it's for my son. It's in his name. Put $4,000 in like 12 years ago, and it's worth like $80,000 now. So, yeah, that was a good investment. I don't know what he's going to do with that money. I hope he uses it for college.
That would be nice, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, let's look at some more artwork. We got a lot of artwork to look at here. I know this is we've only looked at a few pieces, but we've got some really great pieces in here to show. And let's see here. Here's the next one.
All right, so this is the other birthday story. So a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, had this for 30 years. Great guy, and he, the funny thing is, actually, he and I did not get along for the longest time. We both worked at Fat Jack's Comic Crypt, and I was look, I'm Italian, I'm forward, you grow up poor, you fight for everything you have, and you just have an aggressive personality. I have an aggressive personality, and, I always say, because of my personality, about 80% of the people that meet me like me, 10% are dubious of me, and 10% just don't like me because of how forward I am. So, but then we got to become friends, and I happened to stop by his store. He has his own store, and he had this on his wall. And I said, wow, well, please think of me if you ever sell this. And a year later, it's May 13th. So I'm working till like 2 a.m. That's what I usually work till. And at 1:30 in the morning, I get an email from him saying, hey, I'm thinking about selling my DC Comics Presents cover. Are you interested? I mean, again, this was another birthday surprise. Like, whoever would have thought that this could become available? I mean, out of all the people in the world, out of all the people I knew, someone who I worked with, let's see, 37 years ago, at Fat Jack's, who I didn't get along with for the longest time, who I happened to run into and go to his store, who we chatted up and we just became friends. And then on my birthday to get this, it's like, oh my God, DC Comics Presents Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez, #1 cover, original art. I mean, what are the chances of that ever happening?
Slim to none.
Yeah. So Fred and Mike Berkey are the two people that gave me Christmas gifts. I had to pay for those gifts, but that's okay.
Now you've done some work with their shop, I think, over the last couple months, or even when they were during COVID. I think you did some sales for them. So again, that's you're being helpful to people who've helped you and have been important during your career. I mean, again, that's your whole mantra throughout your period in the comics and the collectibles market is always about helping other people out. So, I mean, again, that's I think why these good things happen to you, and they happen on your birthday. I mean, when's your next birthday? I guess we should be
May 14th. May 14th.
Right. Okay. Couple weeks from now.
You can't take it for advantage. No, I mean, look, Fat Jack's, Mike sold to me wholesale when I was 13 years old. I mean, literally, who's going to sell to a 13-year-old wholesale so that he can be a weekend warrior? Mm-hmm. And Mike ran into some hard times. And one of the Perez pieces that I sold, which, I try not to have regret. You miss it, but you try not to regret it. I had a Avengers #11 complete George Perez book. And the only complete book that I have with Perez, where I have the cover and the interiors. and Kurt Dilbeck, who's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He loves Wonder Man. It was the return of the dead heroes and villains. I think mostly villains. It had a great corner box of the zombie cat, and he really wanted it. And I asked a lot of artists to donate art if they could, and a lot of artists did, but I felt weird asking people to donate art if I didn't do it as well. So I sold it to Kirk and gave the money to Fat Jacks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. Well, like you said, the art went to a collector who clearly, that means a lot to them, and then the money went to a really good cause. So it's tough. I mean, again, it's like you supporting the channel as you do at so often. I can't thank you enough. And so you pay it forward to everybody, and it shows. That's why I want I mean, you were doing that before I wanted you on the show. So it's just I can't tell you how much the entire hobby is better for you being in it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
All right. Well, why don't we look at this was a good one with Jimmy in the audience this evening.
Okay, that is a jewel in the crown. That is one of those pieces that I cried when Joey and Jimmy gave this to me. I literally cried. So Joey and Jimmy revitalized Marvel Knights. Jimmy and Joe worked hard. It was Marvel bankruptcy. Daredevil was being canceled. They took characters nobody cared about at the time: Daredevil, the Inhumans, Black Panther, Punisher. And all of a sudden, because of Joey and Jimmy and the teams they pulled together, they really, really, really just helped reinvigorate Marvel. And Jimmy and Joe worked hard to get Kevin Smith. They got Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee. Marvel won their first Eisner Award, I think, ever. Matter of fact, I can drop a story about that. I'll be brief when I'm done with this. But we were doing variant covers, and I really wanted this to be a huge success for Joey and Jimmy. I mean, not only for them, but also for the industry. And basically, we bought 16, give me a second to think about this. No, 18,000 copies of Marvel Knights Daredevil #1, the F cover, and then 6,000 each of the Inhumans, the Punisher, and the Black Panther cover. So we bought 36,000 copies. We promoted the hell out of it. I sold them on QVC. I sold them everywhere. And Joey and Jimmy were grateful. And as a present, they gave me this cover. They knew how much I loved Daredevil. It's the DF cover. I've had people approach me about this for years. And, I have a staunch rule about gifts. You can sell gifts if you need money for your family, for something like raising money for charity, something decent. I do not respect people that take gifts and just trade them, or that sell them quickly just because they can. I mean, the funny thing is some of the wealthier collectors in our industry are the people that flip gifts more than any, and it makes no sense to me. I mean, like I said, look, if you need money, if you got to take care of your family, if you got to take care of bills, if you're in a pinch, do what you have to. Nobody will disagree. But don't do it just to do it. I've seen so many people do it. The two things that I dislike in our industry, in our hobby, is people that sell gifts just because there's a prettier jewel there, or people that I have never said to an artist, I will keep this forever. The one thing you realize being a publisher, being with Dynamic Forces, talking to artists, hearing those tales of somebody saying, I'll keep this forever, and then they sell it within 3 months. Don't say that to an artist. Don't do that to an artist. Don't guilt them, because forever is a long time. Just tell them it really means a lot to you, and, take it from there. So this is a gift. I cried. I couldn't believe it. it means the world to me. On so many levels, it's probably one of my top 5 pieces of art. If we consider like the complete issue of Crisis as a single piece of art, this is in my top 5, and I'll always be eternally grateful to Joey and Jimmy. They went above and beyond. They did not have to do this.
Well, that's a beauty. And we had Joe on in the first Comic Art Live event last May, and he talked a lot about that period in Marvel Comics when he and Jimmy were just starting work on Marvel Knights, and that was just a fabulous story, about with their vision that kind of pushed that product line out, and it was amazing how it did really revitalize Marvel in a lot of ways, and really reshaped, I think, the direction that they went, and it was wonderful for both their careers.
It did. Joey and Jimmy did something that they broke down the barriers. In their minds, there was no one that was not accessible. If you wanted Grant Morrison, reach out to Grant Morrison. Don't think he's just going to say no, or don't think there were some artists that maybe there was bad blood with, or creators, writers, and Joey and Jimmy just went out of their way to mend every fence they could that the other creator was willing to do. And, there's a reason why Joey is so successful as a VP and editor-in-chief. And, he was the longest running editor-in-chief. And he's still at Marvel, and he still kicks butt every day. And he has such a great story sensibility. And there's a reason why Jimmy is so successful doing everything he's doing, between writing comics and writing screenplays and having successful Kickstarters. It's because he really reaches out to the fans. By the way, somebody had said their birthday is also May 14th. Me, you, and George Lucas. And Jerry, I bet you if we tried to get together for lunch, George may not show up. He might be busy.
He probably would be.
Unless we had that ultimate piece of Star Wars art that he'd be interested in, the one he didn't get.
Mm-hmm. Well, he gets first right of refusal on anything, or at least he used to. I don't know if that's true today, but I know many artists that work for LucasArts material that are always pleased when there's something that goes to the permanent collection, because that's a special place. And I've worked a lot with the science fiction fantasy artists through IX Arts and a few other things, and yeah, I think that's like the pinnacle of success. That and getting to work with Magic the Gathering, but probably going in the Lucas collection is probably even better than any other job they could get.
Well, I think the other part is George is really fair to everybody. He pays fair market value. He doesn't insist you sell it. I don't think he just insists that if you do sell it, he has first right to buy it. And if you have an offer, a legitimate offer, he'll match it if he really wants it. So sure. It's pretty cool of him to be that way about it.
I completely agree. I mean, he's got the money to buy anything, but I think that he's very selective too, because I've seen a lot of work that doesn't get purchased and go towards that collection. So, again, that's why I think the artists, the creators, really feel it's an honor when they do get selected to be there.
Yep, both reasons.
All right, now this next, I've got 2 slides for this one, and it's a good story. And I'm sure you'll remember it quickly. This is the Wally Wood.
All right. So if Crisis is my ultimate holy grail, this is probably my second ultimate holy grail, because I will never ever be able to afford a proper Wally Wood page from Daredevil 7. For me, Daredevil 7 is the pinnacle of Marvel storytelling. It is Wally Wood, it is the Submariner, it is Matt Murdock, it is Daredevil, and I will always remember that issue 7, how great it is. And I'm going to butcher the last page, but that last page is so fantastic, with Matt Daredevil being beaten on the beach, trying to raise his billy club to fight Namor, even though he didn't have anything left in him. And Namor looks at him and says, "You have fought valiantly for a surface dweller. I will not destroy your world today, but I shall return to destroy it another day." And it was just so majestic, so freaking awesome. And the funny thing is I'm probably going to give away a secret I should never do. When these went up on eBay, I was biting my nails for a week on this. And I knew that there would be snipe bids at the end. And it's 7 pages, thumbnails by Wally Wood. And what I did was, I'm a poker player too. I love poker. So for me, my favorite numbers are either comic book numbers, like if I'm bidding, let's say $137 for X-Men 137 or 129 for Flash 129 and X-Men 129.
Yeah.
mean, this is a little bit of insanity. So it was at $800, and there was no chance in hell this was not going to go for a lot of money. So the one thing I did is I had 4 windows open on eBay, and I did something that I've never done, that I don't know that I take the risk doing again. But knowing everybody tries to snipe at the end, and they try and just go a little bit higher, and then if they are winning the bid, they don't go back in. So at 13 seconds, the Italian lucky 13, I put in a bid of 12.22.22. Yes. At 11 seconds, I had a bid of 22.22.22. At 7 seconds, I had a bid of 33.33. And at 3 seconds, which was the diciest one, I put in my bid at 44.44. So I think I won it for 33.83 because I think it was a $25 increment. So I hit 13 seconds, 12.22, 11 seconds, 22.22, 7 seconds, 33.33, 3 seconds, 44.44. And I'm sitting there going, you idiot! You're supposed to hit 44.44 at 4 seconds. If you lose this on a split second, you're an idiot and you deserve to lose. And I won it for 33.83. And the underbidder actually was the Wally Wood estate.
That's amazing, and just the idea that you put all 4 windows open. You could have just done the 144.44 bid, but you had it all timed out. That's perfect.
You have to, because sometimes the other bidder, like I said, like let's say I did the 22.22 and somebody went 25, they're sitting there going, "Oh, thank God I won." And so it's like, and then like they're fighting you, you're fighting them. So yeah, this would probably be my second favorite. It's a tough one.
It would have been stressful. I would have been stressed out trying to do that.
Yeah. Let's just say that I took that hour off from work. One of the few times I took a lunch that was in the afternoon, not 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it was well deserved after that. You were probably sweating bullets.
I was.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this is a very nice piece by Gil Kane.
Oh my God, yeah. This you could see the inscription there. We never talked about the inscription on the Atom, but what happened was Gil always felt I was kind to him. He had some good stretches and some bad stretches. And when it came to signing books, there was a time where he just needed a little bit of money just in between gigs or something. And he came in to do a signing, and I paid him that day. And it helped him, and he was gracious. And, my boy, this is really kind of you, my boy. Hopefully one day I can pay it back, my boy. And what happened was I had a couch delivered to my house. I moved to North Jersey because that's where Dynamic Forces was for a while. And the movers, they came in, and the mover, one of them said, "Hey, can I get a glass of water?" And I went to go get a glass of water for him. And when I came back, he took a sip and said, "Okay, thank you, gotta go." And I'm like, "Oh, what the hell?" And then I look, and I had an All-Star Comics 16, I think, with the first Brainwave, and he stole it. And I couldn't prove it. Nothing I could do. The police just said, really? This is what you're going to do? And, it was kind of like, you're an idiot for leaving it out. Not that they took the report, but they felt like they were wasting their time. And they were right. I mean, okay, so they go to the guy. All right, he's got it stashed somewhere. So I was talking to Gil's attorney that night because we were talking about other signings and other things with Gil. And Harris Miller, Gil's attorney, let Gil know. And 2 days later, I get a package from Gil Kane. And it has this great Green Lantern drawing. And he wrote, "To Nick for many past kindnesses." And I was like, wow, the only thing that would make this cooler is if Green Lantern was punching somebody and you can see the Gil Kane nostrils. Outside of that, this actually almost makes it worth having gotten that piece of art stolen. Almost. I don't want to say it does because, I'm not sure that's the way to look at things, but this almost made it worth it. And it was really kind of Gil. On the Atom #1, I'll say it real quick. We don't have to go back to it. Oh, okay. So at the bottom of the inscription, Gil wrote to Murphy Anderson something like, "Dear Murphy, I only wish Julie would give you a better example of my work." So here you have the Atom #1, something that any DC Gil Kane superhero fan would look at and say, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." And Gil saying, "No, this isn't something I'm proud of." And it's like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes, definitely. That's amazing. Well, I mean, I never had the opportunity to meet Gil, but I've always heard that he was a really nice guy. So clearly, you both had a really good relationship, and that sketch of the Green Lantern is, it's a really dynamic pose. I mean, you've seen a lot of sketches by Gil of Green Lantern, but that pose is very different than the more more traditional poses that you've seen in sketches that he's done for people. So, again, that's really generous, and congratulations.
It was. I didn't cry when I got it. I was speechless, and I had to call both Harris and Gil at that point. I said to Harris, he really didn't have to do that. I said, I said, I really hope Gil didn't, and Harris said, "Nick, Gil wanted to do it." He said, if there was anything, he said, I told Gil because he always had told me that if there was anything he could do for you, he wanted me to let him know. And you had mentioned how much you loved his Green Lantern and how between Murphy Anderson and Joe Giella, how many great inkers he had at DC. And he just knew this would mean something to you. And he said, I think as far as Gil was concerned, he can always draw another Green Lantern. A quick story. My friend Fred used to do portfolios, and he worked with Boris Vallejo. And one day he was visiting Boris with Mike from Fat Jacks. Again, him and Mike were doing portfolios in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And Boris shows this Esteban Morato drawing that he got. He's like, yeah, I don't want to try and do Boris's voice because I'll butcher it.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, Esteban was here a few weeks ago and I traded art with him. And Fred said, wait a minute, Boris, your art goes for 4 times Esteban's art. And Boris said, look, if I want another Boris painting, I go to my studio for a day and I can paint another Boris painting. I can't go in my studio and paint an Esteban Morato piece of art.
Yeah, that's true. But Boris is. I've met him several times because he's always at that IX show in Pennsylvania, and I can hear him saying that, and that makes perfect sense. One artist to another. There's little concern. I mean, about the value between the art. that's something that happens a lot at that particular show, where artists always are trading art so that they can have a piece from someone that they admire, that they're friends with. And it's a really unique thing that I get to see every year at that show. And I completely get why Boris would do that. That's funny.
Yep. Going back to the Jimmy Palmiotti, Joe Quesada, when they won the Eisner for the Inhumans, I was at the Hyatt Hotel. Two things happened that night. So Marvel had put out the Marvel Masterpieces by Julie Bell and Boris.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dynamic Forces was a retailer, and we put my business card in the fishbowl because they were giving away a Julie Bell painting. So
cool.
Two things happened that night. One, Dan Buckley, who was working for Fleer Skybox at the time, pulled out my business card from the fishbowl. So I won the Julie Bell painting. Can you guess what happened next?
I don't want to guess.
Then you guessed it. Dan looks at the card and he goes, Nick Barrucci, I'm friends with Nick Barrucci. He can't win this. Tore up the card.
No.
Yes. And then went back in the fishbowl and pulled another name. Now, I have to say, as much as that hurt, he was right. He was absolutely right to do that. But it is just so funny. What are the chances? 100 retailers putting in their card, being the one that got pulled out by your friend, and then saying, no, I'm friends with this guy. He can't win. And so I'm shooting pool with Matt Ragone and Winston. Matt Ragone, who was the VP of sales at Marvel, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And people can't, Marvel never bothered to attend the Eisners because they never won. It was DC, it was Fantagraphics, it was Dark Horse. And the Inhumans won. And Matt said, oh, this is awesome. We can put an ad out in CBG. We won an Eisner, but because we're Marvel, we still won't sell one more copy. But we won an Eisner. I was like, Matt, you got to kind of enjoy this one. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'll take the statue, I'll take the award, and I'll mail it to Jay and the Paul. So fun times.
So have you ever gotten something from Julie Bell since you almost won something?
I have not.
No,
I have not.
She did some nice card art back then. I mean, along with Boris at the time. I thought they. I don't know. I really, if I got something, I'd love something from her, Boris, and definitely something from Jusko from kind of that card art period. I would be a thrill to have something from all three of them.
Yeah, no, the Boris and Julie are just fantastic. I mean, they can paint anything, fantasy, superhero. They are just freaking incredible. So is Jusko. I mean, this industry of ours is blessed with so many great talents.
I agree. And let's move on to another artwork here.
Oh, this is Don Newton and Don Heck, in my mind, are the two of the most underappreciated artists this industry has ever had. And we lost Don Newton early. I think he was 49 or 50 years old. And Don Newton and Neil Adams almost made Batman my second favorite character. But then I read Green Lantern, Green Arrow by Neil, and Green Lantern won. Then I started reading the Flash Superman crossovers. But I had been looking for a page of Don Newton Detective for decades. I mean, for decades. They were just nowhere to be found. And Steve Crizzoli, I'm butchering his name and I apologize. He had this on his CAF, and I reached out to him and asked him if it was for sale, and he said no. Same reason. He said it's the only Detective 526 I've ever seen. And a year plus later, I heard from him out of the blue, and he said, "Are you still interested in this?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay." He gave me a price, and we negotiated a little, and we met in the middle. But I asked him, I said, when we talked over a year ago, you said you have people that keep bugging you about this. I said, it's kind of like that Jerry Ordway moment where I said, why did you pick me? It's like really like, why me of all people? And And he said, "Oh, because you're the only one who wasn't a pain in the ass or an asshole."
It pays off. That's I'm assuming you contacted him through CAF.
Through CAF, yeah,
Yep.
through CAF. And the funny part is that he's someone who has talked to us. He's a producer, and he's talked. And I didn't know who he was from his CAF name. I didn't want anybody to know who I was from my CAF name. That's why I have Barry, Matt, Hal, Namor, and Nick. I've had people think I'm 5 different people with one CAF, and I'll get to that in a second. But Steve, we knew each other because we were talking about doing some movie stuff with some of our properties, but I didn't know it was him until he sent me the invoice. So, but it was really funny. He's like, yeah, he's like, people come up to me all the time. He's like, look, people have said to me, oh, come on, there has to be a price. Or they've said to me, you've had this long enough. Stop being, he's like, I've heard it all. And you just said, please think of me.
Right.
And
right.
I was just like, okay. I was like, that was really great. No, Don Newton, just Detective 526 is the single best Batman book of all time. All the villains, beautiful Don Newton art. It just really, really stands out. I avoided. I consider CAF a close-knit community. If you look at what I do, I kept my full name out of CAF because I never wanted. I never needed people to go, oh my God, look what Nick Barrucci has. I just appreciated the community. I appreciated the anonymity. And if you look, when I post on Facebook, I only post in private forums. I never post in public forums. And, Larry, who chimed in, and other people have asked Matt if they can take my art from the private forum and put it in the public forum of Dan Jurgens' page or Don Newton or Jim Aparo. And I've always said the same thing. Feel free, just don't put my name on it. This is honestly the most public thing I've ever done about my art. And it's only because you asked me, because you have a great community. And I just, I sit here and just enjoy the community, enjoy the people, enjoy the fans. And, it's kind of like, without naming names, when Dinesh when the story broke that someone had paid $225,000 for the Ultimate Spider-Man #4 cover, and that post was a dumpster fire. Oh, you couldn't pay me to put that on my wall. Oh, I'd throw that in the trash. Oh, must be somebody with more money. And I didn't know Dinesh had it because it hadn't been public at the time.
Right.
And I posted on the Facebook page, and I said, guys, I come to this page to get away from people complaining, to get away from negativity. I don't come to this page to watch more negativity. If I were I said, first of all, you're insulting Mark Bagley. You're insulting the character. You're insulting the owner. If I was the owner, I would never post this here. I would stop posting here altogether. Why do you have to disrespect the art? What's wrong with just saying not for me? Or what's wrong with just ignoring it? Let the people, you're scaring the people that enjoy the art from posting that they enjoy it, because you're going to tear into that. And like I said, for me, this is almost a haven, so to speak. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, my whole thing in life, promote comics, promote anything that has to do with comics. If you can do that, life is good.
I agree. I mean, I avoid places where that's the vibe that the group gives off. But there's always those kind of people in there that will look for the comical side on something. Or, I mean, even at the time of the sale, I was a little skeptical. It's like, why would anybody want to announce a sale price on something? But beyond that, I didn't think anything of it. I just felt it's a very important piece to the person who bought it.
Yep.
And the person who had it. It's kind of like when you inquired about the Crisis cover. Somebody says this is what it is, and I'm sure that's what happened. And at the end of the day, the buyer was Dinesh was willing to pick it up and put it in his collection, and more power to him. I think that, again, it's about buying what you love, and sometimes it comes with a price, and in that case, it did. But I know what you're saying. I actually didn't pay attention to the stories that were going, or the things that were being said, because it's why I'm sure everybody on the CGC forums is great, but I tend to avoid it because I don't like the negativity. I mean, I don't need that in my life. I'd rather be focused on the positive things. And there's a lot of positive stuff going on there, but then, you know, the negative stuff kind of wears on me. And so I stopped visiting that forum 10 years ago, unless somebody tells me, hey, you know, you should comment on something over there because CAF was brought up. But I, you know, I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm looking for an escape from the grind of my day and hearing people complain about or scoff at certain purchases or, you know, or even I got tired of the whole there's a bubble conversation because it's not good for the hobby. It's not good for, I mean, I can't, you know, that just wears on. I can't imagine just having that be my thought day in and day out that someday this whole thing is going to crash because I just can't approach the hobby like that. It wouldn't be fun. So I think maybe we're finally getting past that now that we're seeing the prices going where they are and they're not coming down.
Well, no, and that's the whole thing. I mean, look, this is why I always say buy what you love and you'll never miss out. If this is not going to crash, it's just not. The art is too much in pop culture. And the art has never gone down. It may stabilize for a while, but it doesn't go down. Comics do not go down. They may stabilize, but they don't go down. Even the stock market, you know, the stock market may tank, but it always pops back up. It's just the way of the world. And, you know, if you buy what you love, even if the unthinkable happened, you still have what you love. If the crisis pages were worthless to anybody but me, I have them. That's all that matters to me. You know, and talking about Dinesh, I'm going to compliment Dinesh. I think he's very savvy. I think he put it out there for the price that he paid because it allows it to be a lightning rod where when there is something expensive or something that may have a huge value, people go to him. He's very smart in that. You know, people know if you have something key and you want top dollar, Dinesh is the person to talk to. I mean, you know, and I'm very happy for him. Listen, he will outspend me any day of the week, and I'm happy for him. You know, if he and you know he loves the form. He may be good at marketing himself to make sure people know what he's gotten, but he does it because he loves it. And if he's smart enough to use that for opportunity, that's where he and I are different. I love the forum. I love the medium, but I don't need to advertise it outside of there. You know, he does. He's smart. He gets it on Bleeding Cool. He gets it on other news sites. And, you know, we both just have different ways we approach this. Sure. I just want to approach it for myself and my friends.
Oh, I hear you. I can't get anything on Bleeding Cool. I've been doing this for 18 years. I can't get them to post it. I send them press announcements for Comic Art Live, you know, probably the best you know, live convention, you know, that had selling and panels on it that was out there, right? And I don't even get mentioned. I can't even get them to run a press release for me. So that's just my luck, though.
I may know a few people at a few news sites, not just Bleeding Cool, but maybe there's other places like Games Radar and Comics Beat. We could talk next week about this. Let's hook up your May show. Yeah, let's hook up the May show. Everybody deserves it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's I've struck out all the time, so I've just kind of given up on it. I sent a couple things to Scoop though the other last week, like when I did the Gerhardt sale, and they did run that, and they put that in their Friday email. So I don't know, that was my first success. All right, now yes, I hope so. Now I know here's a pair of covers that have a really good story.
Oh, this is going to be great. Okay, all right. So as I've said, as Ben Franklin said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So I am a huge fan of the Submariner 67 cover. But one of my philosophies is if you have a friend that wants something more than you, step aside, because there will always be something else. If you can't get what's there right then and there, and it means more to somebody else, you do not have to have everything. And I never told Glenn what this cover meant to me because I didn't want him to feel guilty for the 67. And I'm going to show a few things in a second. But when the 67 came up, Will Gabrielle said to me, He said, I know you're probably going for this, but I know Glenn's going for it. Why don't you have a conversation with Glenn? And, Will was looking out for Glenn because he knew what it meant to Glenn. And Glenn and I had a conversation, and he said, look, Nick, I remember buying this off the stand. He said, there's two things I'm going after in Heritage, this and something else. And he said, if I get the something else, because the something else is going to be before this, I'll let you know. And leading up to Heritage, so Glenn had the Submariner 68 cover. That's why, and so he sold me the 68, and I just decided, okay, there's only 6 covers on the Submariner series that have the disco outfit, the beloved disco outfit. And I said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with having 68. I said, there is absolutely, positively nothing wrong. And you know what? If I can buy it and I'm guaranteed having that, and then I can, and it helps Glenn get the cover that he wants, it's a win-win. Having a great example is better than having no example. And again, I didn't need to be the guy that got it just to have it. Let other people do that. And so, lo and behold, the day before, Glenn calls me up and says, hey, Nick, I'm not going for it. I got the other thing that I wanted. And I'm sitting there like, really? I did not see this coming. I absolutely did not see this coming. So I went for it. I mean, what are the chances? Now, this is what I didn't tell Glenn. So I will show you. Glenn remembered buying that off the stands, but I have bought so many iterations of that Submariner. I have at least 18 copies of Submariner 67. I have like the Walmart or the JCPenney reprints. And every issue after that, I have multiple copies. And I thought, if I tell Glenn this, I'm going to be guilting him. So I didn't want to guilt him. So I just said, it's yours. Go for it. I am stepping aside. And, even if he didn't sell me the 68, I still would have stepped aside because of him telling me he remembered buying it off the stands. But, again, karma. When Glenn decided to step away and said, I'm not going for it anymore.
Now you got them both.
Now I have both.
All right.
2 out of 6 and 2 in a row.
I know that's incredible. The way fate worked out for you, because if you knew you were going to go for the 67, you might not have bought the 68. So
I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have bought it at all.
Well, another stroke of luck, opportunity knocked, and you answered.
Well, and I do believe, I know that this is a theme I've said, but I do believe if you're not greedy and you're patient, you may not get everything you want, but the things you do get will make you happy. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's, there's a few things. There's 2 things in this industry that are really annoying to me that bother the shit out of me. And this is probably the most aggressive you'll ever hear me. I think one thing is foolish. It's foolish to be jealous of other people. It's a reason why I love CAF. Are there people that are bragging just to brag? Sure, of course. That's anything, any collectible field. Mm-hmm. In sports, people brag about their favorite team. It is what it is. 2 things that I thoroughly dislike in this industry. I thoroughly dislike when people diss other people if they buy something and then put it at a higher price right away. Like I said, I'm a poker player. I hate it if someone is putting money in and they win a hand by luck and the other player gets mad saying, you never should have stayed in that hand. You got lucky. You never should have stayed for the river. You blah, blah, blah. You every expletive you can do. So, I mean, there are a couple of people that buy stuff and then flip it. It's life, and that bugs me when people get jealous of that. And what made me think of it is there was a flash cover that was on eBay that I didn't want to get, but I had my limit. I didn't want to go beyond my limit. And the dealer wanted it and put it up for sale. And it's like, okay, I'm happy for them. I didn't want to win it at eBay. I'm not going, but it is there. Just like it's a poker player's God-given right to keep putting money in to try and catch on the river, it's that person's God-given right to do that. The other thing that I find that's a form of jealousy. The other thing that I find, it is, and it's a form of jealousy that shouldn't be there.
No, I agree. I've complained about that same thing numerous times. I'm tired of hearing people talk about the flip of the day and complain about. Because the thing is, and because it's typically focused on dealers who, for me, most dealers are collectors too. And but when collectors do it, it's kind of okay. Nobody will shame a collector, but they'll easily go out and shame somebody who's going out of their way to consider themselves a dealer and market themselves as that. And they get mad at them, but collectors do it all at the same time too. And I love it. The thing for me is, of course, I love everybody in the hobby. But when I see that kind of strife, the collectors complaining about the dealers for something that we all, at the end of the day, we all wish we could have something that we could flip for 25 or 50% more the next day because it really was worth that. But the fact that it's directed at now a business owner, and again, being a business owner myself, you can't be jealous of because that person's putting more risk out there to be participating in the hobby than the next guy. So complaining about it doesn't do anyone any good, and in my mind, it lowers the integrity of the person doing the complaining, because it's just how it is. I mean, I don't complain about the things you don't have, or the things that you want because you feel you should be able to get at a deal. I mean, I've heard stories of collectors who they're in line at a convention and picking up a piece from an artist directly. They're thumbing through the portfolio. Guy pulls it out. The guy behind him says he really would have liked it. Well, he buys it, but then he offers it to the guy behind him for double.
Right.
It's everyone's dream to have that opportunity, but collectors are really in the same boat. In that same position, and just because, but they don't complain. We don't complain about each other, collector to collector, as much as we like to focus that kind of attention on those people who are doing it as a profession and not as a hobby. I mean, we're all in it. We're all in it for the same reason.
And anybody who puts out the money has the God-given right to do it. And there have been one or two pieces where someone won it and they went to go flip it, and I've had to make the hard decision. The other thing that people don't think about is if you would have went a little higher, first of all, you already would have paid more.
Yeah.
So what's the material difference, really? And there's no guarantee you would have gotten it anyway. So stop bitching,
I know. I'm the same, but I'm like, so we have that same mindset in that way then, because I just want everybody to get along, and whenever you see those points of friction, I tend to just shy away from it. I don't want to be involved with the conversation, and I don't want to have to get involved with trying to keep the peace. And it's one of the reasons why I don't have a forum on CAF. I never, when we had one, that was the kind of things that you would see, and it just turned me off. And I was like, let those conversations happen elsewhere. There's Facebook for that. There's other forums and other not just, there's many forums out there. There's like a statue collecting forum where people are doing that. And I just was like, that's better off over there. CAF is not about that. So at least it wasn't going to be that way for me. I didn't want to own something that people were using to go to complain day in and day out about the hobby. So
and the other thing is when like somebody is doing an interview, and again, I'm not going to name names, but the other thing is when people really try and bolster themselves by saying, let's say you're doing an interview with a news site or somebody. Oh, and I have a Neil Adams X-Men cover somewhere around there. I just don't know where I put it. It's like, you know what? take a long walk off a short pier, because all you're doing is honestly feeding your own ego and making yourself more important to other people. Nobody misplaces a Silver Age Marvel cover or whatever, or even a bronze cover that they love, and they're sitting
They know
there,
right where it is.
I know it's here somewhere. It's like, it's ridiculous. So that, those are two of my pet peeves. And I'm sure that fans will be posting this on Facebook telling me what an ass I am.
Well, no, I mean, I even mentioned it when we did the last, what was it? The last Heritage recap. And I said it then, because when you're seeing things on Heritage sell for 25 to 40% more than you think it should be, is that a flip of the day? I mean, a collector put those in most cases, and they're getting Heritage to flip it for them for 25 to 40%. Nobody's complaining about that. I mean, that is the state of the hobby today. So, it's not worth complaining about it. You just got to stay on top of the market and just roll with it. And you can't complain about it in that way. So
no, just enjoy what you can do. And it's all those stories. I mean, look, I'm sympathetic to it, but we all just got to figure out what we love and enjoy it.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm priced out of the prime Cochrane period that I'd love to get something, and I've accepted that. And you just have to kind of find that next thing and be happy with it and happy with what you have.
Yeah.
So we have a lot more art to look at, and we just hit the 2-hour mark. So I don't want to like rapid fire through anything here, but I do want to be able to show off most of the stuff, especially those pieces that you sent me. So let's talk about these the pair of Flash covers.
Oh, this is a fun one. So I went to my second CAF Con. I'm sorry, not CAF Con. The Comic Art Con in North Jersey.
Yep.
And I went with a buddy, but they had to leave early. Something came up, and Will Gabrielle drove me home. Will lives like within a half hour of me. And he knew I was a Flash fan, and we were talking. And he said, Nick, I have the unpublished cover to Flash 275. I was like, really? What does it look like? Who drew it? He said, well, it's Ross Andru. I was like, oh, I love Ross Andru. And I said, what's on the cover? He's like, well, it's him fighting Bork. I think that's who it was. It's him fighting Bork, and it's not as memorable as the published cover because hardly anyone's seen it. And I looked at it, and, my first thought was, well, it's not the published cover. And then I looked at it and said, you know what? Beggars can't be choosy, Nick. You have the opportunity of getting the unpublished cover to The Death of Iris West. It's it may not be the same once in a lifetime that the 275 with Sandman killing, Bizarro looking real, and Iris West dying, but it's artwork associated with Flash 275. Don't be a complainer, just go for it. So I got it, and I was ecstatic. I love it. And then years later, the 275 came up in Comic Link, and very good fortune, and I was able to win it. So it's kind of I find it that I'm really lucky that I was able to get the 275 unpublished, thinking I would never get the published, because it was on my Grail list, near Grail list. I don't want to overuse the word Grail, but it was up there close. I had the good fortune of then getting both. So I am very, very, very lucky. And again, this comes down to never take anything for granted. You just never can.
Right. I mean, like you said, you were happy to have the unpublished one, but then the published one came around as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I've got 3 regrets of artwork I did not get either in an auction or that I passed on. Flash 146, Glenn, the cover with Mirror Master and Flash switching legs. And Glenn tried to talk me into it, knowing I would love it. But, it was a tough time in the industry, and I didn't want to spend money when I needed to make sure I could pay my employees and my freelancer. That always came first. Mm-hmm. So I missed out on that. I missed out on the splash to Daredevil 158 in the first Heritage auction I went to. And I missed out on this Detective 523. And I think Ed Hannigan produced some of the most beautiful covers in the early 80s for Marvel and for DC. I mean, he was just fantastic. And I missed this. And Will Gabriel and I were talking, and he knew I'd missed this. And he never told me, but he knew the collector who won it. And at one point, and it wasn't his place to tell me. It was not Will's place to tell me if the collector didn't want anyone to know. Mm-hmm. So the collector said to Will he was finally willing to sell it, and Will told me about it, and I was just over the moon. I mean, this is one of the most memorable Batman or detective covers I've ever seen. I love the fire with Solomon Grundy. I feel like it looks better, almost better in black and white than in color, at least equal. And I remember Will delivering it to me, and I was going to have lunch with Pam. And I think it was a Saturday, Memorial Day weekend or July 4th weekend, and Will made the time to come see me. And I brought it with me to lunch. And, like I said, Pam couldn't care about this stuff on so many levels, but she's always happy when she sees that I'm happy. She's actually a little bit of a enabler. If I'm going after something in an auction, or if I'm thinking about buying something and I'm negotiating and I can't get the price I think is fair, she's like, why don't you get it? It'll make you happy. And I'm like, honey, I got to be sensible. Like on Sunday, yes, William, that is the one. On Sunday, when I went after the Flash cover, she said, why didn't you go higher? I said, because I don't want to spend that much. I said, there's no guarantee that spending that much money would have gotten it for me. And I don't think that's a price I'm comfortable with. And so, like I said, she's really great. She's really understanding, and she's really supportive. And take everything in stride. You can't have everything. So, my life is good.
No, well, when you have a supportive wife who knows what makes you happy, she probably knows what you're like when you're sad. So she would probably rather have you be happy. So no, that's Maureen has been very supportive in everything that I've ever done for the most part, and she's really the brains behind this outfit anyway. So I wouldn't be anywhere without having her doing all the heavy lifting. So
it's the best thing in the world having your partner be one of your best friends.
Without question.
Oh, this is okay. So this is an Albert Moy story. So this goes back to the Alexander's Gallery when I went there with Garib. And I think these pages were $300 each in 1993.
Wow.
And at that time, $300 each was a lot of money for art, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, that Frank Miller, Bill Sienkiewicz, Lone Wolf, and Cub at $800, that was a steal. And, while I one of those times where I wish I would have kept my mouth shut and just bought it, but I was happy that Garib got it and appreciated it. I bought these from Albert. And this is from 255. This is from the arguably one of the best Captain America issues of all time, pure Byrne pencils. And I just have had them forever. And these are 2 pages people just love. incredibly, Albert has been generous in offering to buy it back. When Quesada did a Star Wars gallery at Metropolis, Albert and I were talking about it, and he made the joke saying, "I'll give you a profit on it." I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Now, I have 5 other pages from the issue. I have 5 consecutive pages and these 2 consecutive pages. And I also had the page where Captain America puts the costume on for the first time. And I have this bad dream that'll never happen. I've given up on it. I was actually trying to put the book together, and I'm sitting down with Quesada. We're having drinks after, and I said how this is my favorite Captain America issue of all time. And John said, "Well, that's my favorite issue of all issue of all time." I said, "No, I agree with you. It's my favorite Captain America issue of all time." And he kind of politely grabs me, and he's like, "Nick, this is my favorite comic of all time." I was like, "Oh, I know who I'm doing the trade with, where the one page that has him putting on the costume after the Super Soldier Serum." So I ended up doing a deal with John because of how much it meant to him. But these 2 pages that I bought from Albert have been in my possession for nearly 30 years. And, they are just so beautiful, sequential, fantastic. Again, really good fortune. And it's so funny, like you were saying, from 6 months ago, some art has gone up 30, 50%. $300 each back in 1993 was an incredible amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at it and you're like, I think that's the one thing, obviously, without breaking your bank. If you have that once in a lifetime opportunity, and obviously with original art, every opportunity is a once in a lifetime opportunity. But the advice I'll give to people is, if you can afford it, push yourself. I had bought a bunch of original art that day from Albert, from Scott, from Jim Warden. But these were 2 pages that I was wrestling with, because I think they were the last 2 pages I bought. And I just thought to myself, this is your favorite Captain America issue. What the hell are you thinking? So
I love that top panel on the right. I mean, that's just classic Byrne in the way he would lay out a page and draw some rubble and just the characters. It's just beautiful.
Even the small panel where the photographer's taking a picture of Captain America and he's making sure his mask is on. I mean, it is so subtle but so great right there. I mean, his artwork is so fluid. You can see why he and Frank Miller and George Perez. When you think of it, it's funny. We were all enamored in the 80s with Frank Miller and George Perez and Neil Adams and John Byrne and select other creators. And I think that's why creators like Don Newton were overlooked. And again, he died early, which was a shame. Sorry. Like I said, Don Newton and Don Heck, my 2 favorite artists who the 2 most underappreciated artists this industry's ever had.
I completely agree. Yeah, you're very fortunate to have those pages, though. But I'm envious. I actually don't have any John Byrne artwork any longer. I used to have a few pages, but I'm gonna have to I've got my mind set on a few people that I want to get artwork from, and John is near the top of the list.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Oh, God. We were talking about there being 9 Spectre covers that collectors have to have that are so rare that are almost, they are. There's only 9. There's only 6 covers from the 100-page Giants that Jim Aparo did that some people consider the height of his Batman work. I mean, I think I honestly think that Jim Aparo's been a fantastic artist his entire career. I think he never lost a beat. I can see why some collectors think that the 70s really, really affected them. A lot of original art collectors did collect in the 70s, so these really stood out to them. But there are only 6 of these covers. 2 of them I own. 2 of them are owned by Chris in Chicago, and I'm comfortable saying who owns them because they're on their CAF. Steve Morger actually owned the 2 that Chris owns. Mike Lovitz owned one of them. He and I had done a deal. I had 3, but again, this goes back to Spencer Beck being a great guy and working out a deal for me to get these all those years ago. And Mike Lovitz has always been great to me. So he and I did a deal. And then Mike, and these are covers Albert's always wanted. And maybe there was a limit in my paying it forward. I'd already sold one to Mike. I didn't have the heart to sell another one. And there's an art dealer in California, and since I don't know if it's public, I'm not going to mention his name. He has the other one. So, and Mike ended up doing a deal with Albert. So karma worked out there where the one deal I did with Mike ended up with Albert anyway. So everybody's happy. And Steve Morger sold his 2 covers to Chris. And these are probably 2 of my most requested covers to sell, and I just can't do it. I mean, you've got the beautiful Jim Aparo, like scared look on the woman on both covers. You've got this huge bear on this cover. You've got the other cover with the plane coming out at Batman. They're just fantastic. I've always said it would take a Daredevil 7-page or a Flash 123 or 105 page to get these out of my hands. Very Pulp Fiction is right. They're just incredible. I'm a huge Jim Aparo fan. And, like I said, you miss out on a few things. I'm fortunate that Spencer back in the day and over the years has hooked me up with great work with Jim Aparo and great John Romita Jr. as well as his other artists that he represents. Like I missed out on the Death of Death of Robin complete issue, the 4-issue series. Because somebody offered a monster amount of money to Jim and DiCarlo, and I just said, out of my budget, I'm not going that high. I can't do it. And right. So I would have loved to have a Death in the Family pages, but some collector owns them and has them and will love them forever, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, it's back to you can't own everything.
Yep.
All right, now this is a very interesting piece right here.
Oh, this is another good things come to those who wait. So these were DF covers when Marvel relaunched Spider-Man and Peter Parker for the first time in 1998, I think. And we were doing a lot of DF covers with Marvel. And John did this one that John Sr. inked. And John did one with Spider-Man in the Rain that Senior inked. So this was the Amazing Spider-Man cover, and the other was the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man cover. And I've always wanted this, and John Jr. kept both of them, but Spencer knew how much I wanted these, and unbeknownst to me, every few years would bring it up to John, and wow, this was also right before my birthday. I get a phone call from Spencer one day, and he says, I need an answer right now. John, and I've done a lot with John, so I think a lot of it went to John and I having a good relationship, my having had a good relationship with him and his mom and his dad. and he said, I need an answer right now. Do you want to buy the Spider-Man cover? John's willing to sell you one. He's willing to sell you the one with the spider signal, not the one in the rain. And I just need an answer now because the answer is yes or no. And I said, the answer is yes. And Spencer said, don't you want to know how much? I said, put it this way. Will you give me payment plans if I can't afford it right now? He said, I think I could talk to John, but you owe me one, Nick. I said, you know what, Spencer? Yeah, I owe you more than one if this comes together. And, Spencer just did a solid, he just knew how much I wanted the two covers, how much they meant to me. And like I said, every once in a while, he would bring it up to John Jr. And at one point, I don't know if Spencer told him my birthday was coming up. It is coincidence. It was like 4 days before my birthday or something. And he just said, I talked to John and he just appreciates your patience. And that he said, and John has had monster offers on those covers. I mean, it was the second Amazing Spider-Man #1. Mm-hmm. So, and it's inked by his father. He does not sell much of the art inked by his father. So it was a blessing. Patience.
Absolutely. Once again, paid off for you.
Yeah.
Now, this one is the only Frank Miller that you sent me, but this is a nice one.
Oh my God. Okay. So, all right. So again, being nice never hurts. So Joe Lee has one of the most gorgeous and enviable CAF pages that I've seen. He is very selective in what he puts up, and what he has is just drop dead gorgeous. Now we have similar tastes, so obviously I go into that direction. I mean, Paul Smith X-Men, Daredevil by Frank Miller, Wolverine by Frank Miller, Steve Lytle classic X-Men cover. I mean, his CAF page is incredible, and he is the sweetest guy in the world. And we've had conversations and we've had CAF emails, and he we just really nice guy. And at one point, like I found out Joe was going after something in an auction that I was going to go after. And I didn't even tell Joe this. Somebody else had told me Joe's going after that, and I stepped aside. And, the other person told Joe. I was never going to tell him, I didn't do it to brag about it. I did it because there was a piece that meant a lot to him. But it's separate from that. One day I just get an email from him saying, hey, Nick, you're a big Frank Miller fan. I'm still not selling you any of my Daredevils, but I have the Wolverine cover to the trade paperback if you want it. And, Joe is a hell of a nice guy. He gave me a price. I bought it. But he actually, because he made money on it, he actually had me send some money to the person who sold it to him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that is a fan. He said, you know what? I just made good money on this. Take 10% of it and send it to this person. And that's it, just out of the blue. He just said, you know what? I've had it for a while. Sorry, I was looking at it myself, and that's and he still has the color guide. And he just said, I've had it for a while. I'm making a little bit of money on it, and the person who sold it to me was really nice, so send him this much. Mm-hmm. And I did.
Well, I'm glad that worked out. Once again,
yeah.
You let it be known what, at least you're interested in Frank's work, and then fate just played its way into your hands.
Good fortune. Again, never take it for granted.
Nope, not at all. And I completely agree with you. Joe's collection on CAF is amazing, and I'm sure it's only a fraction of the wonderful artwork that he owns. And it goes under the name JL for anybody who wants to check out that gallery.
This, this is a cool piece. I've bought a lot of art from Frank Giella over the years, and he's always been really, really generous to me. There are some pages that he had like behind the table. I think his father's one of the best inkers this industry's ever had, and I think his father complimented so many great artists and just enhanced their work. And you know, just Superman Flash race. You've got Superman and a really tiny Flash.
Mhm.
And since I've always thought this was the closest I'd ever get to anything, I just went for it. He was just really nice, gave me a deal on it. And I've bought stuff from him and from his mom at shows. They've been the sweetest people to me. And it's a Superman Flash race, and it's like I said. I mean, obviously, I have the DC Comics Presents #1, but to me, this holds a special place in my heart because I think this may be the first or the second. So yeah, it's just really cool, and I wanted to give a shout out to Frank and his father. Frank for always being nice, and his father for doing such great work. Stanley, real quick. Unfortunately, what I have is 8 frames. I put 2 Silver Age pieces of art in 2 of the frames, and 6 modern pieces in the other 6, and I try and switch them out every few weeks. And even though I don't get to frame them much, because I put it in my home office, as much as Pam really supports me in this, I've never asked her. I don't think she'd be happy having original art all over the house. So it's being in my home office has a big plus with only having 8 frames. I get to go switch stuff out, and I get to go look at a lot more of the art.
That's a good way to approach it. I had bought clip frames early on and used those a lot. I mean, I haven't used them in a long time, but for that same reason, I knew I wasn't going to be able to hang my art all over the house, and I'd want to interchange them quite a bit, and I did for the longest time. So, no, that's a great approach to it. And you live and breathe comics too, Nick. So you don't need to have it in every room of your house, right? That's probably a wise decision.
I need to let Pam enjoy part of the house. Between that, she has the garage. She runs an animal rescue. So she has the garage for the animal rescue. I have my home office, and the rest of the house is just for us to chill in when the little bit of time we spend at home.
Well, I think that's a good way to live your life there. All right. This is a really nice Joe Jusko piece.
Oh my God. Okay. So this is regrets, but appreciation. So I actually have these framed. I've never taken these out of the frame. So I'll try and be slow-mo. But remember, I said that I bought all of the Marvel masterpieces from Joe.
Yes.
And I ended up having to sell about, I think, 70% of them. And Daredevil, unfortunately, was one that I had to sell because somebody really wanted it. And again, a friend of mine loaned me the money, and I had to pay him back within a reasonable amount of time. But I was able to keep Daredevil. I mean, Bullseye and Elektra.
Very
so,
nice.
I mean, this has the essence of Joe Jusko infused with a little bit of Frank Miller. It is just so out of this world. But the one that I kept that I would not, there was one that there was no chance in hell that I was selling, and I think everybody can guess it before I put it up. But I would have to have not been able to sell any other piece to sell this piece. I just love the Submariner so much.
Wow, that's a keeper right there. That is amazing.
Yeah. And Rich, you have some incredible Jusko too, man. You have a very, very, very enviable Just Go collection, and I love those corner boxes. It's kind of like last night with Rich. I'm really happy for him that he has art that I would love to buy, but even like last night in the Dueling Dealers, I was about to make an offer on the Alan Cooperberg because it had Orca on it, and Mike had said to me, I will agree to the $700, Nick. So, and right before I was about to do it, Rich put in the offer for 700. And knowing Mike, even if I went after Rich saying, I accept your offer, even if I would have done it after, Mike probably would have sold it to me. But I wasn't going to do that to Rich because he, as far as I was concerned, he manned up before I did, and he made the offer of what Mike said he would take. So, it was really nice to see. There were 3 pieces that I really wish I would have won last night and Monday night combined that I didn't win. That was one of them. There's another one that we'll touch on in a few minutes. But I was happy. I'm happy to share the love. You can't have everything.
Right. The Dueling Dealers has been a lot of fun, and it's challenging to manage. I can tell you, it's because I feel like I know I'm letting some people down every time there's a lot of people that want the artwork, and when I have to break it to them, because I know how YouTube shows you that you posted it first, and it's hard to accept. I have to feel if I was in your position to know that you didn't get it, and I feel like I'm breaking hearts every single night. It's not a fun position to be in, but I at least no one's really yelled at me about it or anything. It's just kind of part of the process, but it is it gets me every time, and I feel for everybody who doesn't get the artwork that they want during that show.
Well, let me add to that. I will say auctions are stressful, whether it's eBay, Heritage, or Comic Link. At the very least, Dueling Dealers, even if you don't win anything, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, even when you're sitting there trying to wrangle Anthony or Mike, like, focus, guys, focus. Stop talking about what's not in your hands. Talk about, just give the price. You're trying to wrangle the guys. It's literally, but it is so much fun. It is so much fun.
I liked it when I sold Anthony's art for him, that the show, the last week's show, episode 13, where he was off on a tangent, and I pulled the art up, and I'm like, fine, I'm gonna do the sales pitch, and I sold the first 2 pieces I did for him, because Anthony likes to tell a story, but which is good, I think, in between rounds, or after his round is over, tell the story. But when the art's up there, we got to be talking about the art, especially in the recap. He'll talk for 25 seconds and not let anybody know what the price is, and it drives me crazy. Trying to help him out. So that's Anthony, though. That's what made I knew putting Anthony and Mike together I didn't think they were going to agree to do it, just because I just didn't think they'd want to be on screen together. So, but I knew that as a pair, they would make for an interesting dynamic, and it did work out well.
No, it's a great chemistry between the 3 of you. It's a fantastic chemistry.
Oh, thank you. And I was really happy when Rich got that piece. And I think that's one of the things that people have learned is make your offers before the recap. Throw them out there, because we're all watching, and we want to avoid the recap as much. Well, probably a lot of people want the artwork to get to the recap. We want to avoid the recap, so because it is chaotic, and that's why we made that intro where we're just all screaming, because it is very it's a challenge to run through it.
And at the recap, it becomes a little bit of an auction. Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, if he's going to go 600, I'm going to go 650.
That's right. Exactly. It's true, and it's tough, because Anthony will sell it at 650, and then someone will offer him 7, and he'll want it. I think I had to tell him that last night. Yep. No, you can't take that one. You already accepted 650. So no, it's so it is. It's tough on everybody, but I have to be that the art. I have to keep everybody focused and get them through, so we can get to the end of the show and hope have everybody be happy. So it's again, it's enjoyable. I'm very pleased with how it's worked out, and I appreciate the fact that you have supported it pretty since day one, and couldn't. I feel like I feel like you're a partner, Nick. Even though just in the audience, you've clearly been the biggest supporter of that show. I couldn't tell you how much it's meant to me and to Mike and Anthony just to have you there and just showing that you care about what we're doing.
Look at what Tony wrote.
I tune in for the memes. I'm actually thinking of like a couple of catchphrase shirts, and I'm just here for the memes is one of them, and that whole Claim 15 Dino is going to go down in infamy as like the one of the most stressful moments in Dueling Dealers history, and it wasn't even with Mike and Anthony, but that's the thing. I got a really nice email from somebody, and I want to be able to talk about Europe, but I really got a nice email the other day, and the collector said, what we're doing on that show is creating things that we're going to talk about in the hobby, as these moments throughout this that are going to last for 20 years. We're going to remember, these fun moments that we all shared together, through and again, it wouldn't be, if it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't be doing these things at all, but we're going to remember them for a long time. And I'm really happy that I'm contributing to the hobby in a way that it goes beyond CAF and what I've done there, just by being able to bring us all together and create these moments that, that, again, could never happen if we were all, together in person. We wouldn't be doing this, but we're doing it here, and we're going to talk about these things for a long time. So again, and just having you and everyone else be there for them has been, like, honestly, the best thing that I feel like I've been a part of since I created CAF.
Well, the funny thing is what you probably don't know is there are a bunch of us that literally talk. We're on the phone talking while you guys are doing that. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people, and part of the conversation's been, are you going after that, or can I go after that? Which one of us? That conversation has happened at least 3 times in all the Dueling Dealers. Or it's been, oh, you weren't here in the beginning? Listen, round 1, this didn't sell. It's still available. Hurry up and if you want it, go and put it in. And then you've got YouTube on 2 screens, because you've got the one that's live, and then you're on the second tab rewinding, saying, let me see, what was he? Oh, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know one of the things I keep wanting to remind everybody at the start is, you should have a pad of paper and a pen, and you should be jotting down, what pieces are out there that you're still interested in, so that you can try to make an offer before we get to the recap. It's a strategy, and so I didn't know there were people on the phone talking about what's going on. But I think that's great. That's what I've always. My main thing is always about bringing people together for a good time, and that's been the best part of it. And I agree with what Danny just said. It's akin to having 50 collectors hanging out at a dealer's table. It is. It's really fun, and it's. And you get to see a different side to the dealers that you won't normally. I mean, how many people have looked at that and said, I didn't know Anthony was happy, or whatever. And the thing is, I've known Anthony for a long time. He's like, to me, he's always been the most kind, generous guy in the whole world. And then I see him at shows, and he's the most dour sourpuss I've ever seen. But I knew that was in there with Anthony, and it's so fun to like get everybody else to see this different side to a guy that I've been friends with for a long time, and is definitely he's been in my corner. He wanted me to do a Comic Art Con like 3 or 4 years before the Comic Art Con. He's always been looking for ways to just he's that same visionary. He has these big ideas, and I kept putting him off. I mean, I put him off on doing that show. He wanted to do a show last summer, a claim sale show, and I just said, nah, I don't want to do a claim sale show, because that's kind of the norm, right? I mean, that's what we see on with a lot of the shops doing or whatever. And I'm like, I want to do something fun if I'm going to do it, and I didn't want to do it with one person because that wouldn't have been fair. So when we came up, I was arguing with Mike one night after one of our talks, and in the course of arguing, I thought, boy, it would be really funny if Anthony was sitting here and taking my side in this argument. And then I was like, oh, that's it. We bring these 2 guys together. So anyway, sorry, long tangent there.
No, it's good. Listen, I mean, I bought a piece of art from Mike that he showed on one of the Dueling Dealers that he didn't offer. He had that detective with Black Canary jumping through the thing with Green Lantern and Batman. And, it was just, I remember this growing up, and, and I made the joke to Mike. I was like, oh, well, guess you don't get to add this to the count.
That's funny. Yeah, but yeah, and it's really good. It's been very good for them too, because they sell a lot of artwork after the show. Like, that sometimes, and when we kind of, I do get a commission from doing the sales, and I've told them it's like whatever we sell on the show is what counts for me. Whatever you do afterwards is for, all on them, for them, and they've been able to do package deals that, a guy says, do you have any more of that artwork? And, Mike will be like, oh yeah, I've got 4 other pages, sells them as well. So it's really worked out well for them. And, again, that it was, COVID really made us all try to think out of the box and come up with creative ways to keep everybody afloat. And it's been a really challenging time, up until the last 6 months when everything's been selling really well. But when we approached all this, that was really my inspiration for the first Comic Art Live, was just talking with the dealers and knowing that they were all starting to feel the pinch, the hardship that they were thinking they had to, without having a convention. How are they going to be able to make ends meet? So, I mean, that's just me approaching it as I want to do something that makes everybody happy and keeps them afloat and provides entertainment. And so,
well, dealers have the dual problem right now, where not being at shows is more than not selling. They're not buying. If you don't have a show to buy at, and it's. And, I know people criticize the dealers and what they charge on their art, but the reality is the replacement value for them today is so high. I'm going to pick arbitrary numbers right now, but let's say you've got a Byrne X-Men page that maybe was a $20,000 page 2 months ago, and maybe is a $23,000 page today. But one of the dealers has it at $26,000. You can't complain about that, because there's a practical part for the dealers of, they may sell it to you for $26,000 today, but it might cost them $30,000 to get something equivalent in 3 months.
Right. I know it's a very challenging time. I mean, I've known some dealers, or I've talked with dealers who, have had to go into their personal inventory because they don't have the outlet of getting out to shows where they can replenish the artwork that they want to sell. And that's tough, but they've got to keep moving products. They got to keep their customers engaged. And yeah, it hasn't been an easy time. I mean, so, clearly some dealers have done a little bit better than others, but yeah, we need to get the shows, the in-person shows, back out and running in a safe way for everybody. But yeah, I completely hear you, because that is the number one complaint that I've heard from every dealer, is they feel that they're not bringing in the inventory like they used to, just for that very same reason. A lot of commerce is happening collector to collector, because of the fact that we don't have the shows. So
yeah,
the sooner
Jordan, mahalo to you. And Stanley, no, Nick is not going to do a dueling dealer show. You can ask Will Gabrielle and Glenn and a few other people. Nick has the worst separation anxiety when it comes to selling art. If I have any regrets, it's selling. And I find a discernible difference between paying it forward and selling when it really means something to somebody, and just selling just for selling's sake. Either paying it forward or trading doesn't feel like selling on some levels.
Right.
So no, I'll enjoy everyone else, because I don't even want to know what the Nick meme would be. I could see the Nick meme. I could see Bill we should put this on a t-shirt, Vampirella holding up a piece of art, and Bill will have me looking at it, and Bill and Vampirella will be, that's not the art you're looking at.
Exactly. I know that's the best part of, it's just, for me, it's been a creative outlet too. I love that part of it, is just coming up with the memes and getting to do something that I don't get to do every day. And, I went to art school, I want to be creative, and I've never really had the chance in 30 years. So this is really something fun for me that I'm able to, it wasn't a part of the show on day one, but it was clear after day one, it was necessary. As part of like just moving the show along. So
you have two animated people that have great charisma, and they bring a lot of it. No, Nick is never offering the 2 Submariners and dueling dealers. Matter of fact, the only person I might sell the 68 back to is Glenn, because he was telling me that he was going after the other Submariner, the 61 cover in Heritage. And, he and I looked at it saying, yeah, it's $25,000 cover. And then it shot up past 40. It's like, how is that a $40,000+ cover?
I know. Times have changed. That's just it. You can't really predict the market right now. It's not volatile, unfortunately. It's fun to watch, but agonizing if you're trying to be a buyer in it.
Yeah. Or Rich, if you have a Daredevil 7 page, we can talk.
All right. So listen, we've got 2 more artworks and 1 sad story, I think. So why don't we look at the 2 artworks first? And this one here is by Jay Lee.
Oh my God, I love this period of Jay Lee's career, and Jay's my best friend, and I can't remember if this is a piece he gave me as a gift or if this is a piece that he charged me through the nose for, because this was right as Jay was starting to do Youngblood and Wildcats for Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld. And he was getting paid an incredible amount of money because he was moving a ton of books. And first time I got to meet Jay, and look at how majestic Namor looks there. You got the Fantastic Four, you've got Dr. Doom, you have Namor. It is so freaking beautiful. And this is a piece that so many people love. And this is just, it's, I don't know if it's in my top 10 pieces to own, but it has got to be close to that. The thing is so great. It's definitely Byrne influenced right there.
Mm-hmm.
And, John was writing the series at the time, and I thought they made a great team. And it is just, such a beautiful page. It is just hands down one of my favorites.
I love Jay Lee's work, and now this is a beautiful page. I can completely understand why there would be a lot of people that would be sending you requests to get their name on the list.
There's not that many Namor pages out there that he did from back then. I have no feel for where they could be at, because you would think that, those pages are fetching good money. It's like you were saying before, when people, the plus and the minus of people knowing what you like is if prices are going up, more product is coming out, right? I hate calling art and comics product. More art is coming out. But if people know what you like, the prices are then they're going to charge you more. There was a part where I was buying Dick Dillon, a lot of Dick Dillon art, because he's one of my favorite artists. And by the way, that Joe Giella Flash Superman race was also Dick Dillon, I think.
Yes.
And that was a plus. And all of a sudden, Dick Dillon pages went from being 400 a page to 700, 900, 1200. And I just was like, what am I doing? I was like, I'm creating this market that I love Dick Dillon, but there's 11 of us who love Dick Dillon. That's it. There's no other collectors. There's 11 of us. So I stopped buying Dick Dillon, and the prices leveled back off to being in the 700 range, which I'll take that over 11, 1200. To answer Rich's question, from my point of view, auction prices may level out a little bit, but the key stuff is still going to go for more. Unfortunately, we are in a situation, if there's something key that you love, pick it up while you can. I can honestly tell you that Alan Cooperberg thumbnail, and I should probably keep my mouth shut because I've been buying thumbnails lately, but I think the fans deserve to know. I think thumbnail covers are going to double or triple in price over the next year or so. I think right now's the time. If you can buy thumbnail covers by Dave Cockrum or Marie Severin, and the Alan Cooperberg is beautiful, by the way.
It was, yeah.
It absolutely. And Rich, $150. I remember those days. Back in my day, I was buying Dick Dillon at, I have my cane in my hand. I was buying Dick Dillon at $8 to $15. Splashes were $15. but
I think you're right though about the prelims, cover prelims being a good buy now and something to be, because where the cover prices are going, people are going to be turning to the unpublished covers and
Yep.
the prelim work, and there's a lot of great prelim work out there. Like you said, Cockrum examples are, there's a lot of those out there, and they're still reasonably priced.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I was buying prelims a year and a half, 2 years ago at 300 to 400 for a cover.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're 800 to 1200, maybe a few little less. I can honestly foresee them being $2,000, $3,000 in a year. It's just when people can't afford the covers, they can't afford the splash pages, they're going to gravitate, and it's the less expensive stuff that's going to go out up the most.
Quite true. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna, like I said, for me not being a heavy buyer, it's a lot of fun to watch, but for people who are still trying to keep up with everything, it's definitely challenging times for sure. But like you said, I think when you see it and you know it's something you want, today's the day to buy it. And and I'm not trying to push the hobby along to spend more. I really just feel, because I as a collector, I feel I'm in that position now. If I see something that I really want, I really should make a play for it now, because I don't think I may not be able to make a play for it 6 months or 12 months from now or 18 months from now. Just so get it while you can, because you just don't know. It's not like I'm getting paid more every week. So you're just going to get priced out if you wait too long.
Exactly. As long as you don't, like gambling, as long as you don't go over what you can afford.
Exactly. All right. So this next one is actually multiple drawings, but I've been wanting you to tell the story of these Kirby pieces.
All right. So don't let me forget to tell you about the plane ride home. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
When we get to that. So we did signings with Jack and Roz, and I love visiting them. They were so sweet. They are some of the nicest people. Their family is great. They are comic book royalty. Jack and Roz are comic book royalty. Lisa and the family, they are all fantastic. So one of my trips, Roz brings out some of the comic art, and I wanted to buy some. And I always felt better about buying Kirby art from Jack and Roz. There was a lot of stolen art out there, and I did myself financially a disservice not buying any of it, because it was cheaper. The most money you paid for art was from Jack and Roz. It was as simple as that. They are the people you paid the most, and it made you feel good because you were giving it to them. I mean, it took Jack years to get his artwork back. So Jack and Roz, they had five of these 6 character uncut sheets of the Marvel Mania characters. And Jack and Roz said to me that I can pick any two uncut sheets to buy. She said, I'll sell you 2, you pick the 2. And I said, well, I guess I didn't want to be assuming. I said, I guess not the Captain America and Red Skull. And, I said, because it's Jack's oldest co-creation, but it also had the Zodiac that I love from Nick Fury. It had Leapfrog from Daredevil, and Gladiator from Daredevil. And the Human Torch was a nice plus. And she said, nay. I said you can pick any 2. So if you want the one with Captain America and Red Skull, you should say, I want the one with Captain America and Red Skull. And I said, okay, I want the one with Captain America and Red Skull. I said, and believe it or not, more than that, I can't believe Daredevil and Submariner are on the same one. So I went to get the Daredevil and Submariner, and it had Goliath, and I just could not believe that I got Spider-Man and Green Goblin as well. It was incredible to get them. And, the Lizard was a really nice plus. So I bought a bunch of art from Jack and Roz, and not to delay everything, but only because I think that this would be the perfect time. I'll just show real quick everything I was blessed to get. So this is what these look like. I'm going to probably go slower just because. So this is how big these are.
Wow. Wow, those are gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that they did them on different paper quality, but this is how beautiful they are. Now, look at the Captain America. So the first CAF Con I went to, and I brought this because I didn't know what they were worth, and I was just curious. Someone offered me $10,000 to cut out Captain America. And I'm not kidding. Now these have gone. Two of these or one of these had gone on Heritage for like $23,000. So $10,000 just for Captain America was actually a good deal back then, because if you break it down, they were $3,000 each. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm not cutting out Captain America. These are uncut sheets of 6. They're staying uncut sheets of 6 as long as I own them. And the person kept trying to talk me into it. And I said, look, we will not have a good conversation that will end well if we keep talking about this.
Right.
So let's stop talking about this, because I like you and I don't want to not want to talk to you again. So that was that. I picked up this. So I was hoping to get a Submariner page, but I wasn't able to. So I got an Avengers #2 page with Hulk running from the army, which I thought was really cool. So, and then,
man, I really love that one, Nick. That's fantastic.
I'm really fortunate. And then I got this Avengers #3, and what I love about it is Stan was great at populating the characters together, even in small scenes. Mm-hmm. Iron Man going to the FF, and Iron Man going to Spider-Man even, and I just thought that this was so great. I mean, I don't remember if they had an Avengers #1 page, but if they did, I had a budget that I had to stay in. So, but this page ended up being more important to me than another Avengers page, because this is Jack, inked by Steve Ditko.
Oh my.
And to me,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Spider-Man's using the Paste Pot Pete cannon there.
Right.
And then again, probably could have afforded another Avengers page, but this Superpowers cover has the Flash and Green Lantern. So if you're going to give me a choice between Flash and Green Lantern, or anything else, Flash and Green Lantern win. Or Daredevil or Submariner. And then just because they were really kind, they gave me a fairly nice price on the Who's Who pages. I don't, as much as everybody likes Jack art, I don't think anybody cared about, I don't even remember the character's name, Baron Blitzkrieg or something. It was actually probably a goofier name. But you had Mr. Miracle and you had Big Barda.
Right.
And then for some reason, I'm really surprised, they had never sold this page. Funky Flashman.
Yeah.
So, and then to a degree, the creme de la creme, Pure Pencils, Amazing Heroes 100, Jack in the Circle with the Newsboy Legion, Captain America, Darkseid, Bucky, Fantastic Four, Captain Victory, Mr. Miracle, Silver Surfer, Thor, all these characters. Steve Root inked this off of Lightbox. This is the Pure Pencils. And Jerry Weist was supposed to buy this. And Roz said, I wouldn't want to say he stiffed us, but let's just say I'd rather sell it to you. So
wow.
I was in California doing the signing, and I was with Frank Miller the night before doing other signings. and it became a late night with other meetings, and I woke up late. Larry, I have one laying around at Daredevil 7.
Yeah. Well, we were, I think all of us were leaning into our monitors there while we were looking at those, Nick. Those were amazing. I mean,
yeah.
I can't tell you the Kirby Ditko page, unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was late to make it on the plane. I still have the flat box. I am never getting rid of the flat box these were in. So I'm late to get on the plane, and I have this huge flat box, mostly because of the Amazing Heroes 100. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a small flat box. It was huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the check-in counter, and the woman says, "You have to check that." I said, no, I'm going to take it on the plane with me. She's like, "I'm sorry, sir, but it's oversized. Can I put it in the, sir, I don't even have to measure it. Either that goes in check-in or you're not getting on the plane."
Oh,
so
my.
I'm like razor thinking right now, okay, I've got 3 choices. Miss my flight, use FedEx, catch another flight, fold this in half, ruin the art, take a chance checking it in. So at that point, I said, okay, I have a better chance of this making it than it not making it. If I take it, I'll be more nervous sending it by FedEx. Mm-hmm. So I said, can you do me one small favor? I said, I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate what you're saying. Can you put one of those tags as if it was first class? This is just really important to me on a lot of levels, and I would really appreciate it. And she said, I will do that for you. It was a 5.5 hour plane ride from hell.
Yeah.
To say there's only one benefit to that brown cardboard being in there is that nobody knew what it was. It was to anybody else, it was probably a poster or something stupid,
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, going to the conveyor belt, by the time you get off the plane, I bolted. I ran. I mean, I was exhausted and I couldn't sleep. And this was before you could take your computer and do work or anything.
Right.
I would be pacing on the plane if I wouldn't have looked like a nut. And you would not believe I made it just before the conveyor belt started. Like, I bolted, and it was the first thing that came out.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Well, it was the last thing in probably, so that worked out well. So your stress level just dropped.
Yes. And then of course the other thought went through my mind. I hope they didn't open it to see what it was and take anything out. Because come on, at that point, you're
Right.
like, it was the first one out. Okay, what could have gone wrong? So really lucky.
Wow. Well, see, congratulations again. You go through something that was an ordeal that you had to struggle through, and still it all worked out very well for you. That's Nick, you impressed me at every turn.
Oh, thank you.
Because I saw somebody said no plane. I probably would have been thinking the same thing. How long will it take me to drive cross country with this artwork?
What years are those pieces? I mean, they are, for the most part, I mean, the Avengers are early 60s, probably 62. The Who's Who were in the 80s. The Superpowers is in the 80s. I would say the Strange Tales is probably 64. And the Marvel Mania, I think, were late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, I was trying to look for printed examples of the Marvel Mania ones, just to I wanted to show it with them, but I didn't have time and I couldn't find anything that But so I would assume, I think those dates are right in line with where they should be.
Yeah, because I think some of the Marvel Mania stickers were in like Hulk 181 that people cut out.
Right. Yep.
So that was definitely 70s.
All right. Well, we've got one other artwork, and this is an artwork that you don't own, but
I don't know.
wanted to talk about the story on this one. So let's show that one.
So on this one, and the reason why I wanted to show it was because this really is always be grateful with what you have. Don't have any resentment, don't have any regret. You know, when you make a decision, just always be happy with what you have. So, you know, the comics industry has had its ups and downs. And about 2.5 years ago, you know, cash flow was a little tight. And I wanted to make sure, you know, at Dynamite and Dynamic Forces, we have over 20 employees and we have up to 80 freelancers. And job one, no matter what, is to make sure your people are paid. So I've always and I've sold stuff over the years when I needed money. I mean, when I bought the Juscos, I sold pieces to make sure I could fund it. But job one is always pay people. You know, this industry is littered with creators that didn't get paid. So the one thing I've learned is if you're going to sell something that is easy to sell if you need to raise money, and sell it before you need the money, because people can smell blood in the water if you need money. So I wanted to have some reserves, and things were tight and sales weren't where we needed it. And I just didn't want to be in a position where we started slowing down payments or hurt anybody, because people have to pay their bills. So a collector really loved this. And actually, this is one that Spencer actually helped hook up. He actually ended up brokering the sale. A collector wanted it, and I had to make a decision. And I ended up selling this to make sure we had the cash flow. Now, the disappointing part, to a small degree, is that we never ended up needing the money. So I sold it with the good fortune of not needing the money. So while I might regret having sold it, at the very least, I was able to take that money and buy other art. So, you know, I know people sit there and always go out there and say, oh my God, I sold that Byrne piece for 12 grand 2 years ago. Now it's 35. Well, you probably took that 12 grand and bought other art that went up. You can't complain. So, you know, this goes, you know, like you and I were saying, we don't want people to be jealous. We don't, you know, it's just to say to everybody, it's the age old, while you can't have everything, appreciate what you have. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a stupid thing to end on. I don't know.
No, not at all. I mean, that really is what we've been talking about through the entire show, you know, is be happy with what you have and don't be envious of the things you don't have. And but you did that for all the right reasons. I mean, as you know, I've been self-employed for probably 24 years. So I know what it's like. I mean, in fact, when I started, I had about the same. I had about 12 captured consultants that worked for me. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to do whatever you can to keep people employed. And there's lots of sacrifices as business owners we make. I wasn't selling comic art, but I mean, I can completely understand how hard that would have been for you, because I go through those things, you know, every day. I mean, I need to, you know, you want to pare those things down, and you did the right thing. I mean, at the end of the day, as painful as it is to look back on and think about, like you said, you bought more artwork with it, and that was the benefit of that. And it's probably gone up just as much as that cover probably has gone up in the last few years. But that would have been an amazing piece to just have in one's collection for, you know, even a year. I'm sure you got to enjoy that for quite some time before you had to let it go.
No, it was, you know, I always loved the Hobgoblin, and it was in Comic Link auction, and you know, at the end of the day, you sit there, and I won it, and it was really, I kind of felt bad winning it, to be honest, because Josh, who's a really stand-up guy, Josh ended up noting there was a reserve on it. And Josh said, listen, I'm going to put my bid to get it over the reserve. This is my only bid. But if anyone wants to beat me, you can beat me. And I kind of felt bad saying, okay, this is Josh's only bid, but I think in this one's all fair in love and war. Josh
Yeah.
wins anyway because he gets the commission,
Right.
and he gets, So and Josh, he's a straight shooter. So when he said, "If you want to outbid me, it is what it is." So I got fortunate and won it, and the nice thing is I do know the person who bought it. Spencer has a good feel for these people. So many of the art dealers are just freaking great. I mean, this is really a blessed market we're in. I mean, between Will and Berkey and Spencer and Albert and Bashara and Glenn, it's and all the other dealers. I've almost always had good experiences, and I've always been able to talk through stuff with him. And yeah, Spencer, the person who he sold it to, and I don't know that the person wants it to be known, is a huge fan, and he put it with two other pieces that he loves. And obviously, he can do whatever he wants with it. It's his. It doesn't affect anything. But it's kind of heartwarming to know that somebody who cares owns it, whether it's for a limited time or for however long. So yeah, life is good. I will say, it's the artwork and the comics are a part of what I do this for, but the reason why I brought up the dealers, the reason why I brought all this up, the reason why I did this with you, Bill, is because you're a great guy. I did it because you're a great guy, and this industry has a lot of great people, and that's why I bitch about those few things I did bitch about. But at the end of the day, there is so much more reward here, and I sold it to take care of my people.
Mm-hmm.
And this part of the hobby has great people. That's the nice thing. And that's why I think so much of what you do is so fantastic. Whether it is the dueling dealers or what you were mentioning this week, you're doing 7 days of live streams plus everything else you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it to further the industry. People get to have fun. Dino and Jordan are two great guys. What you did for Gerhard with Chuck was fantastic. Whether or not you make money on this is fine. You deserve it. You put a lot of time and effort into everything, and everybody should earn. And that's what makes all of this fun.
No, I agree. I mean, I just, like I told you, I just want to have a good time with these things, and the Gerhard interview was one of the most fun things I did. And going into it, I really didn't know what to expect. Chuck had actually written out a set of questions that I didn't even follow. As soon as I started talking to Gerhard, it just flowed really natural. That half hour that we had to talk before we sold the artwork was one of the most fun conversations I've had. Because typically I'm interviewing collectors or dealers, and I haven't had the opportunity too often to talk with an artist. And so that was just really enjoyable. And I think it kind of came out really well to the people who were in the audience watching that show, that they got to see a side of a creator and their mindset when they were making that artwork, and then show off the artwork and talk about it and sell it. It just made for a really unique experience. And honestly, that was the most enjoyable thing that I've probably done. I enjoyed it more than doing the Dueling Dealer show, just because it was so easy to talk with him and to talk to an artist about something that, about their process. And again, I'm glad it came across that way to everybody who was watching that show. And it was great for them. They sold 28 of 30 during the show, and the other two that didn't sell sold about an hour after the show. So it was a complete sellout. And I don't know. I really enjoy that part of all of this, is just making sure that, making everybody happy. And it's, like you said, it's furthering the hobby. And yeah, that's what it's all about.
And you brought a light to a creator who, I don't say this in any way, shape, or form negatively, just that he had a great run on Cerebus, and that's who he was most associated with. And you helped a creator who had conventions for a year. You helped a creator that had a different flavor. You helped a creator that that would not have gotten the attention otherwise. You could have done this with, I'll pick a name out of a hat, somebody where I won't regret saying it. You could have picked Jay Lee, and Jay Lee may have generated far more money, but you did this with Chuck, with Gerhardt, and it's that whole circle of the fans realizing there's so much variety in the industry. So,
Yeah, and they told me that 50% of the buyers were new buyers, and they also got several commission requests. So all of that's great. I mean, and the thing that impresses me is I didn't think that there was this much clout behind what I've started or whatnot. But it's fantastic that I can bring new buyers to somebody who's looking for an opportunity like that, and then get them commission requests as well. And you figure it lives on forever on the internet, right? So now Gerhardt's contact information's out there. Anybody can now find him in that way. I had never been to Gerhardt's website before I prepped for that interview, and now it's out there in perpetuity. And so it's all back to the paying it forward, Nick. And I think that's why you and I we do share that same approach to life and business and collecting. And again, I wouldn't have known all that had we not talked tonight. But I really appreciate that about you, because we're definitely kindred spirits in that way. And I'm glad we got to talk about all this tonight, because it's just it's great getting to know you better.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who, you got to see some nice art, but you got to look at my ugly mug in between. But seriously, thank you guys all. It's gratifying to know there's so many people that, like Rich, for example, I feel like I know him a little bit just from watching him help Neil Adams,
Sure.
And Jordan is, they're just, like I said, I'm going to reiterate the same thing. So many great people, and it's what makes this entire hobby great.
I completely agree. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a wrap. It's after midnight here, Nick. And I know you work until about 3 a.m, because that's usually when you email me. But yep. I try to get up by 7 every morning. But again, this has been fantastic. If there's ever anything I can do to promote anything you need, and we've been talking about that. I want to be there to help. And so please never feel like you can't approach me with things that you want me to promote for you. And again, everybody, is it a record show time? It's probably close. The George Hagen Hour show lasted just over 3 hours as well. And that show, I got, as everybody remembers, I didn't get a word in edgewise during that whole show. That was with Mike, Will, and Glenn. Mike's comment after the show was over, he said, I looked down at my watch and we've been talking, or he was talking for an hour and I hadn't said a word. So
that says something.
That does say something when Mike is speechless for an hour. So, but again, thank you so much, Nick, and thank you everybody for tuning in this evening. This was a blast. And again, I'll see everybody tomorrow night. And don't forget the Dueling Dealers episode on Saturday at 1 p.m.
Yep, looking forward